Tim, hang it. I'm going to call you. Is it
On the wait on the phone. Okay, guys. So I've worked out some of the issues. I've got Lauren calling. She's our guest tonight. I'm working out the kinks a little bit, I think. All right, here we go. Lauren, what is up? I see you here. Okay, so you let me know if you want me to. Do you want me to patch in your video, or do you want to be?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you think. Whatever the normal thing will
Okay. All right. Let me turn off Seprock Beats. All right. Thank you, Seprock Beats. All right. So stand by. All right. So thank you, folks, for tuning in to another episode or session. I don't know what you want to call it. I hate calling this a show. I just want to talk about what the hell is going on and work through things. So, I mean, you want to call it a show, fine. I mean, I guess because I host something. But here we are, Shop Studios again. Still got the cabriolet in the back. That thing is a dream to drive. It's like going back in time. All right, guys. So I have Lauren with us on the line right now. I'm gonna patch her in a moment when I figure out the um, logistics of this thing that I'm trying to do. Oh, I think I'm gonna make it work. So stand by. Okay, Lauren, go ahead and introduce yourself while I work out the kinks of the video part. Oh,
well, all right. I'm Lauren. My name's Lauren Green. I've known James for 1,000 years.
it is.
And,
It's been a
uh,
long time.
as we were 20 years old when we first met. So, yeah, that's
Dang.
23 years.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
wasn't
That
even
was
married
what?
yet.
Really? Wait, was
Huh?
it that long?
I wasn't
I
married.
thought
I
it was
wasn't
like
pregnant.
99 or 2000 or something. Was it
No,
that?
2000 is when I had Jeebus. I had Jeebus in June of 2000. We got married December of 99, and you were around well before then.
Oh God, yeah. That was
You worked at
man. My timeline's all
Skyview.
screwed up. Things. Yeah. Wow.
We were at Skyview together, and that was like 97 or 98. 98.
Wow. Yeah. See, I
Oh,
have.
oh,
There's a
like,
total time
oh,
loss for me there. And by the way, if you see me looking off into the distance, like I'm not paying attention, I'm paying attention, but you have to realize I don't have a live producer. Woe is me. Someday, some kid's gonna be like, what do you call it? Not influenced, but like inspired. Like, yeah, this truth telling session needs to be better, so I'm gonna help produce this
for
one of these days. Okay, so let me figure this out. So I guess I have a picture. All right, hold on. Why is it? So yeah, go ahead. People can
okay.
hear you. They just can't see you right now. So go ahead
That's
and
fine.
tell us. Yeah, you. So we've known each other for quite a while. And I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. Start at wherever and end at wherever, and yeah, Up to you.
Okay.
And
Well, then
meanwhile, and as soon as you're on camera, I'll let you know. And
so
by the way, we do have live chat on YouTube, so if people are saying things, etc., I'm going to let you know um, what they're saying and whatnot. Okay.
okay.
All right. Yes. So please,
All right.
Lauren.
I live in Utah. So I'm from Minneapolis, right what's now known as the George Floyd neighborhood. I mean, that was like, I mean, that's, I worked at that Target for 3 years. Like, that was my grocery store. The Cub Foods at Calder actually in the same parking lot, and then later refused to sell milk to rioters to get the tear gas out of their eyes. Um, there was a car fire in front of my house. Like, so that's my background. That's where I'm from, but I'm not Utah born, but I've been living in Utah for 1,000 years. So I'm here out in the sticks. And James, what do you do now? Because when we both became like trainers at the same time.
Well, what I
Do
was
you stick with it? Because I knew you were at Fidelity years and years ago training. Did you ever continue with it at all?
I mean, I had a super brief stint at Merrill Lynch. I don't know if you want to even count that really.
Didn't
Um,
like it?
it, I mean, the thing was, it was really short-lived. I don't know. I think I was a little bit crazy at the time, and I think people that would that knew me at that time would probably agree. I was going through a really crazy mental phase. It's hard to describe. I mean, someday maybe I'll write about it or something. It's sort of boring, I'm sure, um, but yeah, I was there briefly. I almost felt like some kind of weird rebel, like Robin Hood or something there for a moment.
Mhm.
I had a lot of major support from the students, but I had zero support from management. It just, like, I couldn't even get training rooms and stuff. It was just really weird.
This
Um,
was after Fidelity.
yeah, this is after. They wanted to bump their, to do something to improve their, their pass rate at the time, and so
They really want to do anything.
they wanted to implement something new, and I had done some pretty big things for Fidelity, and even they would admit that. But why is this not? This isn't working. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so they were sort of, in a way, they wanted to bank on that, but they also wanted to warn me. They kept warning me over and over again that I wasn't there to recreate the same thing as Fidelity. So I don't know what that meant. They wanted their own take on it or something. I don't know what it was, but it was just really weird. It was a lot of posturing and stuff like that, I guess, and it wasn't something that I work with. I'm sort of an idealist in a way,
Yeah.
and
No, yeah.
if we're gonna do something, let's do it right. I don't like doing shit for politics. I don't like virtue signaling and things like that. Like I'm all for like in whatever way. Some things when I say virtue signaling, some people don't realize that they're virtue signaling. Like when
Right.
people are like super gung ho about troops and stuff, I'm like, why are you virtue signaling about troops? You know what I mean? It's like anytime people are waving this big banner about like this is what I believe, like you know what I mean. And so
Yeah.
there's a certain segment of our population that points at other people and says, yeah, blah blah blah, virtue signaling, but then don't realize how much they're virtue signaling themselves. And it would happen throughout. I don't know, just sort of these things like they wanted to show they virtue signal like they're advancing their training, but then they don't actually want to do anything to advance their training, even to the point of allocating training rooms that are empty.
Right.
Like I'm literally getting kicked out of training rooms that are not being used by anybody. Like, Why? Because I just didn't schedule it the right way. I'm like, are you
Right.
serious? These people have to test in a few weeks. Like they're like literally begging to,
What's the
you know, do whatever.
yeah,
Anyway, so then I just got
more
bump.
is
I would
wrong.
bump heads with management and da da da. That kind of thing.
Wasn't for you.
Yeah, so it basically, I was still in the midst of trying to start my business and stuff with Street Hero, and it just wasn't. It just, it, I think part of me just couldn't stand being back in the sort of corporate ish that the thing the
Yeah, you
dealing
turned out
with
happy at Fidelity, so
politics, that dealing
I'm not
with.
quite surprised that you went back into it.
Yeah, well, I don't
Maybe
know
you should
the
you thought it was Fidelity and didn't
the
weren't broken
prospect
yet.
the prospect of having, like, really, when you leave corporate America, this is the thing that everyone's afraid of, and this is the paradox, right? There's a paradox that makes Americans neurotic. That's why I think all Americans have trauma for existing as Americans. They're traumatized because you, on one hand, have the corporate world, which has its own politics and regulations and whatever world and ecosystem. And then you have the entrepreneurial world, which has its own ecosystem and its own politics and its own world. And sometimes and there's sort of envy on both sides of each other and disdain on both sides of each other. So the corporate person envies the freedom of the entrepreneur and the potential for income of the entrepreneur and the ownership of the entrepreneur. But then the entrepreneur sometimes looks at the benefits package, at the
The
paid
steady
vacation,
paycheck,
at the steady paycheck, at that type of the
getting off the side.
right, that you have some strength in numbers. You have a whole corporation versus yourself. Sort of sole proprietorship or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's going. My experience is living through that disdain on both sides, and it's like once you leave, it's. I feel like it's like you jump off a precipice in a way. It because of the contradictions of living in America. You have companies that their aim is to try to pay as low as possible to
Right.
get the best work as possible. And of course, people are trying to get the best pay they can, but there's either more people entering the workforce, people staying longer in the workforce, automation happening,
Mhm.
and also offshoring. So all of these are happening, and so meanwhile, Americans are left with this contradiction. And now you have the situation where you have a consumer market with no consumers, and there's no money for people.
Right.
So this is spelling a really weird situation for Americans that have to reckon with. And before now it was all words, and now it's like facing a reality. And now what? And until shit hits the fan, I think Americans aren't going to talk about it honestly, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like you have experience about people not talking about things honestly, right? You want to discuss
Mhm.
something that's uh, near and dear to you. Why don't we sort of jump into that? Tell us the premise of what your thoughts are.
Well, okay, so I think that a lot of things become kind of off limits to talk about, at least in polite society. You just kind of maybe it's stuff you could discuss with your best friends, but generally, if you were to voice that opinion, especially online where everyone's so anonymous, you would just be attacked. If you were to voice it, even like among a larger circle of friends, you just get people getting nervous, changing the subject. And so I think there's a lot of things, really important subjects that would make our lives better if we could just be intellectually honest about them that we can't talk about. And one of them, I think, is the fact that just the biological difference between men and women. As I said to you before when we were talking about this, I'm completely separating the social aspect of this, meaning I'm not talking about the violence rate against women. I'm not talking about a wage gap or anything. Let's say that been a perfectly, for argument's sake, it's been a perfectly equal society. No man has ever laid a hand on a woman. Uh, you know, just the biology of it. Women are still The fact that, the comparison I've heard is that average man, okay, a forest gorilla is to an average man in strength and size what an average man is to an average woman. And that puts us in a position where there's always in the back of our mind this, we don't even know, we can't talk about it, so we don't recognize what it is, this voice saying, don't make him too mad, don't make him too mad. And that starts from birth, that starts from as soon as we start interacting with people. And since we don't discuss it, we beat ourselves up, so we let some dirty old man tell jokes that are making us uncomfortable, and we're so conflict adverse, and we don't know why we were so nice. It almost seemed like we were encouraging him. That wasn't, and then we feel awful about it later. And then, if a man oversaw it, he would say, oh, you were encouraging him. Not out of meanness, just out of not understanding, because we don't even understand. If we could just acknowledge that you're always going to have, this person could kill you without a weapon. Simple as that. You can put a small man in a room with a large woman, and she, within the average spectrum, of course, and he's going to be able to overpower her. And not, knowing that at least 50% of the people that you encounter in your life could kill you with their bare hands becomes a part of who we are, how we interact with the world. And I think it negatively affects men and women, but we can't get into the details of it, and because we can't talk about it because it's sexist, or men will get defensive. Well, no, it's not men's fault. It's not their fault that men are born larger and stronger than women. And it's, it's not a sexist thing against women either. I mean, women, we are not as physically strong or as large. So it's just, if you look in nature, you're not going to see animals sleeping next to predators. When we sleep next to something that could kill us, we'll be alone with a room full of men with, it's just something we have to learn to deal with, and it's something that affects our character and who we are as people. And also it affects men, where like sometimes a woman she'll just get upset, and it seems like women, I think men tend to think that as women being unpredictable or emotional, well, really, you did something to trigger, totally innocently did something to trigger that like primal fear in us. We've never heard it talked about, we don't recognize what it is, so we just look for, I'm upset, I know it's coming from you, what did you do? And then you get I just think it's funny about something that happened 5 years ago, or a dream she had, or whatever. It's trying to, because we're illogical creatures. We think I'm having a negative emotion, I'm feeling in some way threatened by you, what did you do? It's not illogical to try to find a purpose for that, because we don't understand that it's just often a biological response. So it's just a topic I don't think it's allowed to be talked about. Anytime I've ever tried to bring it up, because I'll just get people totally uncomfortable, but then later, a couple hours later, I'll start getting phone calls and texts from female friends saying, oh my gosh, you just explained like half of my life to me, why I did this and this and this. I mean, I wonder what, women are not nice. We're not nicer than men. We are just conflict avoidant because we have to be, to protect ourselves.
Do you think that's a universal trait in women, or is that a cultural thing?
I think okay, this is what I'm saying. Separate the culture. There are cultural elements that add to it. Look in the newspaper, see how many women were killed for just rejecting men, okay? Well, let's take that out of it. Let's say that never happened. Let's take all the conditioning out of it. It is simply biological. It is simply something that's going to be universal in every woman that ever walks the earth. I mean, you're not going to find a mouse that's not going to run from a cat. You know what I mean? It's anything in nature that is at risk of being overpowered or killed by another animal is going to have that fear. We're not any different. We're just not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
We're allowed in the sense that people won't join in. They will, you'll be alienated or criticized or totally attacked for bringing something like that up. Because, well, men, no, I'm not saying it's not men's fault. And I'm not saying that it makes women weak. I think we're not as strong, but we're definitely, on a scientific level, tougher and have more grit. So there's different types of strength, but we can be overpowered easily by men. An average man can overpower a very strong woman.
As far as physically, right?
Physically, I'm just talking physical. I'm just talking like comparing us to animals. If you
right,
compare,
and we're not looking at the extremes of like a bit, Ronda Rousey versus like some tiddlywink game.
And I'm probably within the spectrum of normal. That 95% of the population. 95% of the population, and even Ronda Rousey, I guarantee, is naturally born with that, and maybe she's overcome it in her life. But she has at points in her life stepped down and backed off, because sometimes it's totally illogical. Like I said, frail old man that's telling dirty jokes. We don't want to set him off, so we'll just ha 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 instead of being like, shut up. You're walking away because we don't want to set him off and we don't know why. And then we beat
Uh,
ourselves up. And we're like, why did I let him do that? And it's, we back down to bosses, we back down to partners, to friends. It's just, I don't think the more you think about it, the bigger of a rabbit hole, the deeper of a rabbit hole it is of how it affects every aspect of our life.
okay, I want to jump into that. So first, I want to let you know that I got the video working, so you are now on. Oh wait, hold on a second. I didn't want to totally. Let me see. I think. I think I accidentally screwed it up. So maybe now you're the only one on.
Oh,
So between now and I don't know, in the next little bit, we're you and I will share it, but you are on video as well. So let's explore this. By the way, superfan Chris is on with us, and he says hello. And so if you guys have any questions for Lauren, let us know in live chat. So you're saying that behavior that some behavior is being sort of steered by a hidden, not really, I guess hidden or not. Is it
right.
something that's it's more of a subconscious thing, and it
Unrecognized, yeah.
and it manifests itself not in the normal, not necessarily in the normal fashion that people think of as fear or
Right.
something like that, right? Like it's not like you're sitting with your man and now you're gonna go like run into the closet or
Right.
something, right? Or
It's
duck
more
and
like
cover, or right. You're it's
it's
yeah.
a
Why don't
resistance.
you talk? Yeah, tell us to elaborate more on sort of how what you're saying. This sort of I guess if we put it in a biological sense, this is something that is probably a sort of a fight or flight response that's innate in women with men, because men have, for since the dawn of humans, have been bigger than women.
Right, right. Like, when it comes down to like Adam could beat up Eve, therefore men will always be in charge. Uh, that's just the way it is. And just, I don't think, of course, women are getting more power and all that stuff, but we also, I think, they have to acknowledge that that's because men have decided to give us power. Like, if you guys just wanted to all get together and, Handmaid's Tale, what would we do about it? What could we really do about it? So it's first one thing I want to say is that from the outside, kind of, I think what it appears on the outside is I mentioned this to you before about cats. How cats, how you'll be petting a cat and it's happy and just loving it and petting, and all of a sudden it bites you. And people are like, cats are nuts. And animal behaviorists just they explain by saying cats have two brains. They have their primitive primal that would never be so near something that could kill it, but then they have their domesticated side of their brain. So they may be in their domesticated side of the brain, you're petting them, and then maybe two hands go too close to its face or some random thing sets it off and it gets scared and takes off. Okay, so that's kind of seeing it from the outside, and so I think most men can name experiences where women's emotions changed on a dime and they didn't really have a lot of explanation for it. And a lot of it's because we don't have an explanation for it either. So externally, what it's like is it's more like and I think it's just evolved because we do, coexist with men. It's evolved to not be a running down the street. It's evolved to how do we coexist with men without getting killed. And so there is this constant resistance to making men too angry, to pushing them, or, like I've always heard the term nice is a four-letter word, which I agree. Nice does not mean kind. It doesn't mean good. It doesn't mean honorable. It means conflict avoidance. And so we just have this constant, like, it's hard for us. Like, if there's a woman and she's doing something that's making us angry, it's not a problem for us to say, hey, knock it off. If a man is doing something, it is. We have this resistance, and so that's one way it manifests, just more this resistance, just we can't get it out of our mouth. We can't, a lot of times, why don't women just say how they feel? Where, well, there's some socializing that goes into that too. Anyone with emotions is a psycho. But if you take anger as an emotion and realize anger is an emotion, suddenly men are just as emotional as women. But that's a different topic. Sorry, but it's
Well, I mean, they're related. I think in the way I think you're hinting at the way men react to this phenomenon and categorize the phenomenon
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. So I think that
and
men
what's socially
oh,
acceptable or not, right? It's like
where
in
she
a
agrees with me because she backed off or she's not arguing with you. So I think men, for one thing, and I'm not blaming you. This is not men's fault. This is the way any human would react to the situation. This is not any criticism of men. This is just basically a criticism of if women could just acknowledge it. Like I said, like the dirty old man telling jokes. If I could realize, like, okay, wait, this is just my subconscious telling me to not make this man mad. This man's not actually a threat. I'm in a public place with this frail old man. Sir, I really don't need you to say that kind of stuff to me.
mm,
This is
well,
not
how
ever.
about I
Uh,
mean
well,
I've
again, we talk
I've
about the
seen
biological aspect of it. The
I've
social aspect of it, I feel like, is a whole other kettle of fish. Just talking about the biological aspect of it, because it's not that women are weak. We're afraid of hurting his feelings. No, we're not. We're not any better people than men,
yeah
or we're not kinder, we're not nicer. We are conflict avoidant. So I think it comes off in two ways. And one is they think we're agreeing with them. They have no reason to know differently that that woman at work totally disagrees with you, but has this resistance to speak up to you. Um, or here's another one. She's not telling me to go fuck off, so she must be interested. She must like it that I'm talking to her. No, we just don't want to get. I've been slapped in the face for telling for turning down a man. We've all been threatened by men. Like catcalling. We don't mind that a man says, "Hey, sugar tits," whatever. That's not what bothers us. The reason catcalling is so upsetting is because we don't want 99% of men, 95% of men are good men, but you don't know which 5% are the psychos. So if we learn to do this thing where we look, we half smile, but not too much, and nod to acknowledge a compliment, not make them too mad, but not encourage them. Because if you ignore, you don't know 1 out of 10 men is going to flip out and start chasing you down the street and screaming in your face. I mean,
mm,
really, you stupid bitch, you think you're too good for me? I'm sorry, I'm cursing so much, but they will.
it's all right.
There's a portion of the population, and how can we know? So that's why catcalling is so upsetting to us, is because it's not a compliment, because we don't know if you're going to go crazy if we don't respond the right way. So if you ever watch, next time you see a woman getting catcalled, every woman has a way to cope with it, has a way to manage it. It's
Mm,
usually like a look up, look down, be modest, look up a little, smile, and then walk away. Don't make them mad, don't hurt their ego, because do not screw with a man's ego. And so I think they either say, oh, she's okay with whatever behavior is, whether it be something like at work or catcalling or hitting on her, or they see it as random anger that makes no sense. Like, why is she so, which it doesn't make sense. But it would if we could understand, okay, he didn't do anything wrong. There's no reason for me to be upset. He just kind of triggered that fear in me. Then men wouldn't constantly be getting like beat up, for not beat up, but kind of
well, but
blamed
sometimes
like,
men are jerks and they need to be. I mean, they're
yeah,
even if you tell them about this stuff, they're not going to be sensitive enough to give a shit. You know, the
yeah,
cat callers aren't going to be like, hey, come on. She has a
no,
biological like
right.
response to this, and like they're already don't. I don't think they really care.
I guess I'm feeling like more if women could recognize it,
Yeah, yeah.
we wouldn't be so quick to come up with something in our head like, oh, I had a dream, or,
Mm.
every man's been yelled at for the dream, or something
I feel
happened.
like catcalling's it is one of those
Well,
other
that's
neuroses
a
in a
jerk.
way. Like, I mean, not
That's a jerk move, but
yeah, it's a
that's a
jerk move by the
jerk.
guy, but at the same time, how uplifting can that also be to the gal though? I mean, she's getting openly complimented. I get men don't just get openly
This
complimented
is
on a
what I'm
normal
saying.
basis. You know
That's
what I
what I'm
mean?
saying. It's not upsetting that
Right.
someone gave you a compliment.
Right.
In fact,
It's
are
that
little
the
cultures where,
reaction. Right. If
right,
guys would stop being such
if we
assholes
knew,
about the back end part of it, if they would
yes,
just leave it at "damn girl, what's
and we
work" or
knew,
whatever, right? And then
yep,
and she just goes on, then she'd be like, "Oh yeah, these guys were like all about me." But
yes.
because like, what if you walk by and they were silent, but they weren't silent for the girl in front of you?
There
You know
are some
that
cultures, especially in
that would
South
be
America.
like, "Dang, ah," you
No,
know,
no,
like
there are
right or
cultures.
not? I don't know, maybe not.
But no, no, you're right. There are cultures in South America where it would be rude and insulting to a woman to not catcall her,
I mean,
and
see.
where it would hurt her feelings. It's not. That's not a big deal. Some women would be mildly annoyed by it, but it wouldn't really bother us. It's that
Mm,
if we were to say, yeah, no thanks, and we knew we could either just walk away or we could say, yeah, I don't want to hear it. They don't, whatever our reaction, we weren't going to get attacked or screamed
right.
at. I mean, like, I am not every woman I know has had a man get this close to her face and scream at her about what a stuck up bitch she is because she didn't respond to his. advances. Like I said, I'm flat
Yeah.
across the face in a line at Portico. It's and I wasn't rude. I just ignored him. So yeah, it's not the cat calling. I mean, anybody who take the compliment, hey, still got it. It's that's why. And that's the part I think men don't get is it's not it's but we can't know. You can be the nicest dude in the world, but we don't know if you're gonna go crazy on us. So we have to just so every time we hear someone catcall, that response gets triggered. Every muscle in our body tenses up. We're like, shit. How do I get out of this?
Mm.
I'm so sorry. I'm such a sailor mouth. I can't help it. That's who I am. I'll work on it.
Oh,
Sorry.
then I'm not. This doesn't matter. We curse all the time on the show. All right, superfan Chris says. So Lauren, are you saying that women in general are immediately terrified of men due to a biological trait inside of them?
uh, Immediately, no, not well. I was terrified is the one where we immediately are on guard. We are immediately will absolutely act differently towards you than we would towards a woman. We'll be far more cautious immediately. So terrified is like, no, women are so they're, oh my God. We don't even recognize what it is. It comes out as niceness. We don't even examine it or talk about what it is. But my personal opinion is that that's what a lot of these female behaviors that make us seem nice or whatever are, is just us being guarded and don't, because there's just always this voice in the back of our head saying, don't make him too mad. Because then you end up in an oil barrel, you know.
Right. Yeah. Ugh.
And even what I mean. And I think that even if men weren't killing women for bringing them down or whatever, so yeah, there are a lot of really great guys who I think most men are good men and would not want to bully a woman into accepting his advances or whatever in the workplace. They just don't even realize that she's afraid to say what she really thinks and
Well,
doesn't
so
even know why.
what would okay? So let's say there's more. Okay, well, and let me back up for a second, I guess. So have you? I think you were before the show. We were talking about this last week a little bit, and it sounded like there really hasn't been much. Like this, I don't look. I don't know much about Freud, etc. But I know uh, he his psychoanalytical method had to do a lot with sort of innate features, I guess, of our psyche, whatever. It was any of this kind of stuff addressed in his
No,
works,
no.
etc.
As far as he was concerned, women's biggest problem was that they had penis envy. He was very man centric. Almost all of his stuff is
Mm-hmm.
about what men are experiencing. Or women, if you're unhappy, it's because you want a penis. No,
Mm.
I feel for you guys. I would not want to have to deal with that in life. So no, I mean
Mm.
like it's not the. I don't feel like anybody talks about it. And like I said, if I ever bring this up in a
We're all
conversation with my
born
friends,
as
they're like,
women. I mean,
oh,
and
and
not
I get
born
this,
as women, but
oh, huh?
I don't know about all species, but at least all mammals are female first, and then some hormonal stuff kicks in, and then
Yeah,
some
a
become
human darker
boys.
hair. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
tell
the
about six
female
weeks of
state is like the base state
right.
of life, and then
And
males are
then,
like this thing that pops out every once in a while to do something.
and
It
what's
seems
interesting
like.
is that at about 6 weeks of gestation, they're the same, right? And then the DNA starts kicking into whether it's a male or female. And if it's a female, it continues as normal with no
Yeah.
alteration. If it's a male, it starts getting marinated in testosterone,
Right.
and everything shifts. Like the sex drive part of the
Without
brain starts
that
being
yeah, without that hormonal marinade, right? It would that embryo would form as a female embryo,
yeah,
right?
right.
So
Like
that's why I'm saying,
and
like,
so
I think I had this weird thought about, which I don't know, is about just how the male of any species is really sort of this randomizer, and the female is really the vessel of the
yeah,
genetic information, and then
yeah.
males are thrown in there every once in a while, and they play some role because it's shown evolutionarily that having that male randomizer, basically this, it's almost like the genetic scout that goes out and does dumb shit, like out far away, and it sees where good stuff, if it comes back with a bunch of food, then it's good. If it, like, if acting like this with a big antlers and doing all this stuff is like making this genetic code stronger and keep keep
Yeah.
having more babies, then so be it. Now, sometimes it goes in different trajectories. Excuse me. And that's where we where the whole survival of the fittest thing falls out too. That some of our biological traits aren't necessarily made for us to be fit. They're just shit that happened. It's like when I talk about the peacock as a metaphor for how society can change. It's that the peahen, for whatever reason, likes to have sex with the peacock with big ass feathers and makes a lot of
Mhm.
noise. You know what I mean? And has the biggest feathers, which are not helping him at all. Like
Yeah. I was wondering.
it makes it easier for tigers to get him. It does not
Yeah.
help him fly. It's harder to go through the forest. It makes noise. He has to stay up in branches or in the field or whatever. He's always in danger, right? So like, yeah, he's OG for making it despite all this shit. I guess,
Right.
right? That's great for evolution or whatever, but it didn't help him survive. It's just because the peahen decided that she's not gonna fuck unless he goes out and makes a big ass ruckus and puts his big ass feathers out and
Right.
says to the world, here's a big, dinner. And if he survives all that and he does it the loudest and the biggest, then we'll do it, and then I'll have his kids, right? And it's like it's not
Good
necessarily
point.
for the environment.
That's
It
not
could be so weird. I mean, so in a way, I have this totally sexist idea that yeah, females through their sexual selection in a way can determine, because we have such a history of masculine society, they can
yeah.
change things around because we've moved. You can't just go beat up a
Just
woman and
don't
take her
go
to the
stepping
cave
into incel.
anymore. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
don't go stepping into incel territory on me now.
Oh no, in a way, yeah, incels are the exact
And the
proof
thing
of my
is,
point.
like,
They're the
stepping on
proof
the
of my
incels
point.
is some of these guys are just like just don't hate women and you'll get laid because like you're a normal looking guy.
Yes,
Like
yes, yes.
there was a plot
They're
I
missing
heard
the
like the
point,
guy who like
right?
killed people down, killed all those people down in Berkeley, I think it was, and he was like, "I'm 21 and a virgin." Like, join the club. I was a virgin when I was 22. Lots of people are virgins. They're 21. Like, big deal. You don't gotta kill people over it. And
Yeah, yeah.
I don't.
Look,
Yeah,
no,
you know, I know.
I think like
Well, the
incels
women are power.
represent incels represent the power of women being able to
Well,
select
I guess that's
men.
what I was going to say. Is that
Yeah.
yeah? I'm not saying that.
They need to stop like oh
We
and
should
it's here's
prepare
a
for it.
yeah.
Like to what he said. In short answer, yes, we are afraid of you. Even if we don't recognize it, even if it just comes out in weird ways, it's not
And
constant. Not
how
one of those
about
three, but yes, we do have a fear of men because you guys have the physical power. We have other power, like you said, selection. You know, we really get because I guess I never thought about that. That what good does the extra feathers do? You know, I think that's another whole point about why are the women the ones that have to like we dress up and do our makeup and everything. And if a guy likes to do his makeup and hair, suddenly he's feminine. Except look at nature. It's always
hey,
the male who
we
decorates themselves. It's
we
more
have
natural to want to wear makeup. So I think
I'm
that's kind of
my
true.
point is that to that end, women shouldn't feel that burden. They don't have to. They have the power to not feel that burden. They have the power to cause men to grow fucking feathers
Yeah,
if
maybe.
they wanted to. If that's what it took, men will grow feathers out the
Well,
ass in like next year. Done.
okay.
Genetics would
Part of
change
it. Okay.
immediately. They will inject
Part of it.
genetic traits into their ass if that's what
Okay.
it took.
This
If
goes
that's
to
what it took.
socialization though. As far as women feeling like we need to decorate ourselves, you know, I my friend's mom just died. She was 84, and just last September I had a good conversation with her, and she was telling me about how when she got married. So she was 84, so it was like 60 years before. And she was like, "Well, I was 23, so I was on the precipice." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, if you hit 24 and you weren't married, you were never going to find a man to take care of you and to feed you. So like you had to do one of the two worst things. You had to be a nurse or be a teacher." And that's where they sent out the girls who couldn't get someone to marry. And it was, I was,
Hmm.
and she was like, it was terrifying that you wouldn't find a man and you wouldn't have food on the table. And I think that obviously we're so far past that, but there is still some of that remnant in women's head that
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think that's why women are so
Well,
rushed wanting to get married and stuff
here's the
is because there's
thing.
still this socialization that we need marriage to survive.
We can look at it in
You
a
know,
we can
you
look
know,
at it in a ancestral fashion in that it was once physical physical
Years ago.
brute strength, but through you know, the patriarchy and the things that have
Mhm.
been set up, um, and even it's just even like you said, it still happens today. So we can't just say that it went away. That this sort of man-centric, patriarchal type environment, we can't say it 100% doesn't exist. If girls are, excuse me, brought up to believe that
Gotta get
that's
in.
a certain paradigm,
Yeah, gotta get married. Gotta
right?
lock
And
them down.
and instead of
Not good for anybody.
I think it's a twofold thing. I think there's another layer. I think there's a background layer to what you're saying, because I think there's a physical brutality, but then also because of the physical potential of disagreement, men were able to create social paradigms where they were more powerful. So
Right.
they have more, typically more money and financial retribution, along with physical retribution, becomes another layer of potential trauma, or not trauma, but like anxiety, I'm sure, right, to some
Yeah,
degree.
and I just honestly was, I felt like it was such a deep well of such a topic, just not even talking about the social aspect of it, talking just about just the biological aspect is
Sure.
that we acknowledge that we are animals, and no, we're not, we don't walk into a room and cower when a man walks in, but it's just, it's a much different feeling when you have to watch your car at night and you hold your keys and it's dark and there's a man over there. That's a much different feeling, but that heart pounding
Well,
kind of fear,
depending on the neighborhood,
I look
there's
around
guys
just
doing that too.
like,
Depending on the
do,
neighborhood.
what'd you say?
Depending on the neighborhood, there's dudes doing that too. But yeah, of course, women have to do it more. But like,
No,
guys still get
I'm
mugged or something like
definitely more
that and
because
whatever.
you
But
would
of
hold your
course,
own. I
women
think,
are more danger. I believe
but
that 100%.
just statistically, if maybe 10% of the population is going to be a threat to you, 50% is going to be a threat to me. It's a
Yes.
big difference. But
Yes.
that, like, I won't be around. I don't care if it's my furniture. If dudes are helping me move, I'm gone. I won't be around
Well,
it because
no matter what,
angry,
you're in more
irritated,
danger.
my heart will start
Yeah.
pounding. And I'll feel, I think because I grew up watching, like, my dad beat my mom,
Mm,
and when I got into a relationship where I was physically threatened within an inch of my life constantly, I think I'm just more in touch with what that feeling is.
mm.
So when I see men moving furniture, and I'll start crying because I'm a big wimp about it. But I've seen other women pick fights and stuff in that situation, and I'm like, and I've seen it, and I'm like, she just doesn't like feeling, about her man, watching him move stuff, and it's making her heart pound and feel nervous. She just doesn't realize that's just not, it's not him. He's
Hmm.
just big deal got irritated because the couch fell on his toe. Like, he's just irritated. It's not, he's not really threatening you, but I think I'm just more in touch with it because I've seen so much violence of men against women. But most women just have no clue what that is. They just don't, they just think he's a jerk. He did something. He
Well,
did something wrong to make me mad.
let's see, cause Chris has superfan Chris here has some things he wanted to ask you about. He says, first of all, he says he can see where you're coming from. He goes on, as a black man growing up around black women, I would respectfully disagree that your logic would apply to all women. Most black women are unaffected by the presence of another man. In fact, they can in an instant overpower a man and see them as no threat. Most men are actually cautious about approaching most black women. He feels it's a cultural thing in regards to the reaction of most women to a male's presence. So Chris, Superfan Chris, do you think that on average, like, do you think that this paradigm isn't necessarily true with black? I mean, there's some pretty strong black
I
dudes,
don't
and
think,
not all black
honestly,
women are all that strong, but there are some
I
strong
don't.
black women and some scrawny ass black dudes. But we can't
Well,
really
that's the thing with
mesh
white
the
women too, but outlier.
extremes. There's
I
outliers
don't.
in the white world too, and all the different worlds
Well,
too.
here's the thing.
But on
I,
average, I wonder. Yeah.
I guess my reservation is I would say that I don't think as a man you could know that. Like I said, when I talk to women about this, any women, they're like, then I get a call or a text a few hours later, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't quit thinking about this. Like, you're so right. This explains so many things. So I guess socialization maybe I do believe I'm not going to try to make gross generalizations about any culture. I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying in general. I'm not going to try to make any kind of opinion about white people are this way or whatever. But I think there tends to be a more submissive, at least that's stereotype, white women are more submissive. But I'm really not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, deep, deep in the brain, that primal reaction. And I mean, I guess since the original women were black women, I guess I feel like if that's something a white woman that's not socialized but is there since birth, I think you have an island of women who have never met a man, and the first time a man comes around, they're going to feel that way, and I don't think it matters what color they are. So I feel like whatever genetic traits or tendencies are in anybody had to also have their place in black women too, since they can now scientifically prove that only black women carry all genetics of all races.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Well,
but I'm not questioning that you know black women may be stronger in the presence of men, but I bet it's still there. Maybe they
well,
just push it
cause,
aside. Maybe they
cause,
just ignore it more.
yeah. No matter the race, in general, no matter the race,
Men are
the
stronger than women.
man of that race is going to be quite a bit stronger than the average female. But Chris mentioned if he feels that if some women have past trauma from an experience with a violent male, that ups their chances of feeling a certain way about their male counterparts.
Oh, of course, of course, of
Um,
course. But I think that all women feel it, but they don't. If they like women I know who have never had anything like that, they feel it, but because they never had like there's an abject fear when you're seeing like your mother beat by your father, or when you're getting physically threatened by a 6'5", someone who can fill
mm,
in a door. James knows my ex. Um, that is a totally different experience, but it's so in your face that I think that if you had that, then when you feel those little hints of it here and there, that resistance, you can recognize it for what it is. So I think all women feel it, they just don't necessarily recognize it. But of course, yeah, like I'm going to jump to that place before most women are. Well, I don't say most women, women who
mm.
haven't experienced, but most women have experienced some form, whether it's getting beaten up by a brother or something, some form of proof that men are stronger than them.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think some women. Actually, I don't know. I think some women have been so sheltered from that they haven't actually seen the
Okay, and if
full
okay, let's say they haven't,
extent
I
of that
still
because I've heard of I've
I
been around
still think
women
there has
that
been
that
resistance. Because like I said, I don't think this is about men behaving badly or being
no,
bad or
right,
anything.
of
I think
course, no,
they're
but in
inborn things. So I think
but the
I do think it's
potential.
universal.
But I think that I think what you're hinting at is the facing of the reality of the potential that exists, and whether you want to consciously recognize it or not, that you um, that it will that it could manifest itself in a way. I don't know if I'm blocking your camera, Lauren, or not, but in a like I sorry I lost my place, but
I do. I just think women who have never experienced it are less likely to understand what it is. Like my sister, for instance,
mm,
my dad only beat one woman, which is my mom. Let me tell you, how often does that happen? My mom is impossible. But so he didn't beat her mom, my half sister. She's never
uh,
seen a man lay a hand on a woman. But when I talk to her about this, she's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like at first she's like, and then she came back and had 80 different stories. So I do think it's there in women who haven't ever seen it or experienced it.
mm.
It's they will recognize it the way
It's something they
um,
feel, but it's something that they've probably
they're more
suppressed
apt
or
to
they've dealt
they're
with
more
in
apt to
some
blame it on a
way.
dream than that.
Right.
Yeah, they're more apt
But
to blame it on you cheated on me in my dream,
hmm. Yeah.
or something like that, or 4 or 5 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. You cheated on me in my dream. That would be a treat. Like,
Have you seriously never experienced that? Because most men have been punished for something I wouldn't dream about.
oh, I'll be
You
like,
haven't?
look, if you're gonna punish me for something, then
But you know how
I'm
a woman
gonna
get
go
mad at you
do. If
about
I'm
that.
gonna get punished for robbing the bank, I'm gonna go rob the bank and at least
Have
spend
you
the money
ever
for a little while. You know what I mean?
have you ever like had a woman upset with you for a dream she had? Have you never experienced
Not
it?
that I mean, not that it's stuck. Not with anything that's stuck. Like, wait, you're mad at me because of a dream? Hold on, it's a dream. I can't
I
control your subconscious.
no,
You know what I mean?
and most of the time when women do that, they back off and are like, Okay, that's nuts. And they
Like,
realize
and
it.
then they say, yeah, can you imagine this crazy dream I had? Oh, whoa, that's crazy. I hope that doesn't mean anything, but I'm not into reading dreams.
Okay,
So
this
I
is
don't
my
know.
point.
But it could be a hint
That's
towards
my
the
point.
future. Sometimes I think
Okay,
dreams can be a little jog to the, who knows? I don't know. There's a lot we need to learn about consciousness and dreaming.
okay.
I
But
don't know.
okay, I'm misstating my point. My point is, if I'm with, if I'm a woman who's never, who doesn't know what this feeling is when I get that bad feeling, and I'm with my man and he does something, I don't know, maybe he leans against the wall, something that triggers that in me,
Mm.
and I have all these negative feelings towards him now, and I don't know where to put them. It might be like, I had a dream about you last night. Sometimes we'll pull out stuff that doesn't make sense. Men always say, oh, women are crazy, women are over emotional, blah, blah, blah. And I think some of that is like, why did the cat jump up and run away and bite you when it was perfectly happy? Well, cats aren't crazy. They're just switching to a primal thinking mode. And I think sometimes that happens with women. They'll go get after,
And it
they have more
probably
emotion, they don't know what it is, so they get after
and
about
it,
something else.
I think it happens with men too. How many guys will go and call a woman emotional and then throw a game controller against a wall?
Right, they forget
And
anger from emotion.
right, so they can transition to primal mode into an irrational rage, and that's okay. So why is it so unbelievable for you to have an irrational flight
Right.
response? I don't even want to call it fear response. Maybe flight or a fight response. It
Yes,
could be. I
I
mean,
think that's
there could be fights that are picked. I would imagine. I'm not a psychiatrist or no psychologist, whatever. Either way, but I could imagine if we're delving into this mental sort of like um, background, sort of puppet strings playing your head. You know what I mean? Because sometimes
yeah,
the reptilian brain is
yep,
controlling things we don't know, and it's just like the rage thing. Like it doesn't make sense for you to destroy your TV because you got a headshot, you died or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It's irrational, and now you just did it. So that, and it's like your guy puts his arm around you, and suddenly you're like flinching or whatever, and I don't know, whatever reaction's weird. And instead of, maybe that elicits a response that's irrational at the moment or something. And maybe if you knew how to deal, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe if guys knew how to deal with their rage better, they'd save more TVs, right? And if women knew how to deal, I guess what you're saying, if women knew how to deal with that kind of response or knew how to recognize it, they would know how to
right. I just,
recognize that kind of thing. And men too, both ways,
I,
if you
I can't
want
speak
to
to it.
be
Like,
introspective enough.
there's a lot worse things getting broken than TVs from men's irrational
Oh,
rage.
well, yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
of course. Did men figure out how to handle their irrational anger? Yeah, but I can't speak to men. I can speak to one way that women can work on some of their irrational anger, but just as much our rational stepping back, uh,
Sure, sure. Well, I
avoiding
guess.
conflict. I mean, that conflict avoidant thing puts us in such a box. I mean, I think our character is shaped by avoiding conflict with men from such a young age. And I know there's a lot of conditioning in there as well, but
Mm,
biologically too, that, I think that's why I think that's the only reason we're considered nice. We're not nice. We're not better than men. We're just more afraid than you are. We have
mm,
more fear. We're more in danger of making someone mad and being harmed.
sure. I mean, I could see that. I think what the culture that we have where it isn't acceptable at all, which is somewhat recent, that you're not allowed to use that physical asymmetry to your advantage as a man.
Mhm.
So now it's, most women I feel can feel pretty empowered that they won't feel
Yeah,
that type of physical violence because the retribution for that is
yeah.
so high that most men wouldn't even I mean, that's a rarity now.
I
You
don't
know what I
think they're
mean? I
that
think.
rotten either. Like, I don't think there's any man in my life that would lay a hand on me. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
sure. I
that's
think that part of the culture, right? That part of the culture also, there's been an awakening of
sure.
men to see like, oh, women are just
Well,
like
what do you
me,
think women?
and I shouldn't beat them, and just because I'm stronger, I should. That's not how I should get my way. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Men
And
shouldn't hate more
it's
either,
not
well,
cultural.
they get each
Yeah,
other, but
it's not culturally acceptable. I mean, not that it Yeah, I mean, people used to be
I
able to do that to some degree,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I
it
feel
was
safe. I
acceptable.
feel safe in my everyday life. I have no worries that my boss is going to hit me. Yet I'll find myself backing down to him or to a coworker who's maybe my peer is more and more appropriate, being much less likely to speak up to that one than this one, than the female. Even though I have no fear this person's going to hit me, it's just it's so ingrained in us that it comes out in all these weird ways, and it's like I don't know. I just think it's altering who we are, making us a lot smaller.
Do you think that could also be
Giving that
sort of
false
exist
sense of
on a spectrum? Like some people might lash out more because of it.
yeah, and I think you know when you're walking on a bridge, there's a word for it. When people like look over there and you just kind of like want to jump or drive their car, and there's a term for it. It's called like
I in
you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a term for it. Like they'll just have an urge and they won't do it, but they'll have an urge
it's
to
like a
try to do it.
compulsive urge in a way.
It's called a compulsive, uh, what's the word? Uh, Catastrophe. And there's a term for it.
Mm.
And I think some women take pride in like trying to shit with men. Like they're almost like trying to get that. Because some women, I think, start shit with men with the singular purpose of trying to get them to react violently. And I don't know where that urge is coming from. I don't want to get hit to prove a point.
Well,
But
I
you
mean,
know,
it
just like,
might be to test that notion of
how
empowerment,
safe am I
of
with you?
ability. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm sure there's a spectrum. I'm sure I'm
Superfan
one of the listeners.
Superfan Chris says he's always has been of the belief that women are always adorned by their male counterparts, especially in ancient civilizations. Um, what do you think about that? This sort of dichotomy between this male adoration of the female, especially like look at incel simps, the whole
Oh, they
simp
think it's
movement,
yeah,
where
I don't know because it's funny because
I mean,
if you
people
talk
are
to
these
men, they
guys
feel
are
that way. Like men have to worship women, and like some of the more angry guys online will be like, women just can get anything they want, and they just cheat. But if you talk to a group of women, it's all, oh, he rejected me. Oh, you know what I mean? We can't get a man who just wants us. They just dump us. We can't dare ask for a commitment. Like women feel the same way. We feel like we have to just bend over backwards just to try to like be loved. I feel like it's on both sides. But I promise, there are very few women I know that are like, get something for me, and you're gonna, those are the women men like the most. So maybe women need to take the nice women need to take a cue, but it's a lot of insecurity among women about
well,
not, you know,
I think too many people are taking cues from too many of the wrong people
yeah,
is what's
yeah,
happening.
right.
And I don't know. I think even the incels are a pretty relatively small group of people. They're
They
vocal,
scare
but I
me.
think they're a pretty small group of
They
people.
scare me honestly because
They are
they have
scary.
the absolute hate they have towards women. They're
They're
distorted.
being enabled. Someone's enabling a lot of
No,
these people,
I don't know, but
you
like,
know.
dude, quit talking shit on women and you'll get laid. It's not like, well, here's another thing though. These guys, they think, how can I put this? There's a lid for every pot, but sometimes men don't want the lid that's in their league. They can't get a supermodel that they think they deserve, then they can't get a woman. Maybe
mm.
just your standards were too high. You know, I mean, men are definitely more. I mean, I think the men have just as much pressure as women because a woman, I could not make a cent in my life and still be considered a worthwhile contributing member of society. A man is considered a POS if he doesn't accomplish. Women don't have that pressure on us, but y'all don't really have to look that good either. Like, we're okay with less than ideal looks. So, I mean, everyone has the pressure in both ways, but I don't know. I think it just depends on who you ask about who gets the raw end of that deal.
Well, I think like I said, I think the incel people in general are a minority, and those people have some mental issues. A lot of it has to do with the fact that these people are not introspective people. So
Right.
they're not introspective. They're so selfish, but they're not introspective. And if they're not introspective, they won't look at you. If they
Well,
won't even look at themselves, you know what I mean?
well, yes, yeah, but they're also having a son who's a gamer. He just turned 20
Yeah,
and
but
watching.
gamers aren't all incels,
No, I'm
you
not
know.
saying gamers are all incels. My son's not an incel,
Yeah,
but most incels are gamers. Not all,
there
but
are a lot
most.
of incel
And I will
gamers though.
tell you,
Yes, yes.
here's why. I think this is a contributing factor. Okay, there is one girl for every 40 guys on there. So of
Sure.
course, if you don't leave
Now
your
they
room,
become
and the only
sensitive.
women you meet are you're competing with 39 other dudes for her attention, and she lives across the country anyway, like you might start to really feel like you can't get a chick. Where, you know what I mean? Because like it is a solid percentage of these teenagers. I don't know if you've been around a lot of teenagers lately, but they don't do stuff. They don't go out. Their
Hmm.
interaction is online.
Hmm.
And so, like, yeah, it's not going to happen. You're fighting with 39. You know, the odds are against them, and so I think that gets them feeling down on themselves too. And like maybe if they were a little more introspective, like you said, they could do math.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they
But that's
don't
up
get
to
jobs.
them.
They
They
get
don't
first
have
jobs,
to. I mean, they
training,
can go.
tech, license. All those have been pushed back about 4 years. But pregnancy rate's gone down, STD rate has gone down, alcoholism, drug overdoses, pregnancy, all these numbers, auto crashes have all come down for teenagers too. So because they're not leaving the house
Hmm.
until they're older and well, some would say more equipped, but I don't know. We'll see how this generation turns out. I mean, my son's still at home.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm gonna go. My life is awesome. I don't work. I just get what I want. I'm like,
I. Yeah, I don't
uh,
know what being a teenager's like right now. I can
not
imagine
great.
it's. Yeah,
COVID
it
won't
would
make a
be
difference for them.
really
Let me put it
really
that
weird.
way.
I think for
Teenagers' lives
me,
haven't changed much because of COVID.
I think
What is
for
it?
me, I would have probably been as long as I was allowed to go fishing, I'd be okay. But yeah, as a teen, I'm trying to think of myself as a teenager. Um, I think it, but if I wasn't allowed to do anything, I just was in the house all the time.
It's not that they're not allowed, it's they choose not to. They choose to stay home and be online. It's like the e-girls, they're not going out Saturday nights. They're making videos in their room on Saturday nights. Teenagers don't go out. They stay in. Their lives are virtual. They're social lives. Like I think a perfect example of it is I saw this Instagram post and it showed this couple and there was all these cute pictures of them, right, like in a car and on a Ferris wheel, blah 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 blah. And the post said, "I just want to find a boy not to do these things with. I just want to find a boy to take these pics with." And that's what it's all about. The purpose of a relationship is the pics. It's the pics, it's the posts, it's the likes, it's oh, you're such a cute couple on Instagram. So it's really it's shocking how much different it is.
Hmm.
Oh, tell them their parents are trying to shove them out the door. Go fishing, go do something. You can't get them out the door because no one's doing anything. What are you gonna do when everybody else is at home? You go sit by yourself?
I don't know. I used to do stuff by myself all the time. I mean, when I was in Japan in high school, I would go fish by myself with the old Japanese men that I ran into at the river. You know what I mean? Or
Unless you're a thinker.
I'd go and I did a lot of stuff on my own. So that's why I said I think I would be fine during this time. Um, like if I
That's
was in
not
like
much different for them. They don't go to school. That's really the only difference. They're all homebodies anyway.
yeah, see,
So
I was never a homebody. I didn't like being at home. I was outside all the time. I was chasing animals or looking at airplane stuff or doing things on my own away from the house. So to me, this is
they do.
none of this stuff is gone. The things that I did were not are not gone because of technology or anything else. They're still there. The parks are
Yeah,
still there. The nature still exists. Fishing still exists. All of these things
but
exist that I was doing as a teenager. You know, cars still exist. You know.
compare your home life, okay, as a kid and as a teenager to what teenagers and kids have now. Do you remember what it was like when Jesus is my son,
Hmm.
just turned 20. When he was a little boy, he always had the best clothes, the best toys, the best everything you could have. And that was typical because as young parents, we believed what the experts said, which was you have to protect your kids from all trauma. If another kid has something and they don't, they're never going to become the fully self-actualized person they could become. So we made their life so good they have no reason to want to leave home. Like you got to have an incentive. Like I've learned that now. My kids now know like you don't get it that good around here because I know the worst thing I can do for them is to not give them any reason to grow up and take on responsibility for themselves. Like I make them share rooms. You can share a room because you want your own room, grow up and get a job
Hmm.
because I'm just too good to them, and that's why I think that's what the suicide rate is a part. That's part of it. I think that's a part of the failure to launch generation is just too good. I mean, your childhood home life wasn't that good. Mine sure the heck wasn't either.
Well,
Most people,
mine would have been good if my parents weren't assholes. I mean, my dad's racist and he used to beat me. My
exactly.
mom was racist
Hit me in
and
the head with a hairbrush.
randomly beat me. Um, I mean, but I had my own room. I had the lavishness of officer in the military lifestyle, and had a lot of perks and privileges. I had. It turns out I didn't know this at the time, but turns out I probably had one of the most, like I mentioned last episode, a really good education that I didn't even realize, and so yeah, I don't know. I think but
But
my
you,
parents were assholes, and I didn't,
yeah,
and
but
they
that's
had they
enough.
had weird. It was a weird social dynamic, a family dynamic. So I hated being at home, and plus
Right.
I
You
already
know,
just liked nature stuff anyway, and
yeah.
airplanes, and it was stuff that took me out of the house anyway. But
But do you think
you
it's
know,
possible that you got into those things by leaving your house to find an escape from the negative stuff, and that's how you first discovered them?
I don't think
I mean,
so.
if
My
you're
dad, I
perfectly
think it
comfortable at
came
home,
from my honestly, as much as I don't like him, I think it was influenced from my dad because he collected model airplanes, a lot of which were
did your dad
so.
pass away? You said
Not that
something
I
about
not that I know of, but we've sort of lost touch. I call him. I try to call him on Father's Days, but me and him don't really talk much.
here. You can see. Look, can you see up there? Oh dang, hold on. Gotta turn my light on. Okay, can you see up? Ooh, I can't aim it. I'm not a good aimer. There we go.
See.
See
Oh,
that?
whoa, yeah, there you go. Oh, the Buddha.
Yeah. Gave me that like what? 20
Wow,
years ago?
long time.
Yeah. Now I have a whole
Yeah.
kind of Buddha themed
Wow.
house. Yeah.
I think that's looks like
That was from your dad.
it's
Was your
old.
dad when you came back? You said it was your dad had sent it with you or something, and he gave it to.
Yeah, that's a really from a long time ago. But yeah, look, I mean, so those things, I think, to some degree, I don't know about the nature part. I think that's just because when I saw animals around the house and stuff, it was intriguing.
Yeah.
And I learned about them and went down the rabbit hole of zoology. But like airplanes and stuff, that's because my dad collected model airplanes and he's in the military and we were around airplanes and stuff. So it was natural for me to be into that stuff, I guess. I don't think I got into those things because of my not so great home life, but I think that I don't know. I think there's a lot of layers to the onion that are leading to that, and it's not so much about whether or not parents give stuff to their kids. I think people could lavish their kids with all sorts of stuff and still with the right stuff and still be able to steer their development to some degree. I mean,
You
obviously
know,
they are running their own ship, because they're humans, as much as we like to just call them
yeah, and
children.
maybe just the
But
freedom.
you
Maybe
know,
it's just okay. I'm gonna try and say this. It's rough to be an adult. You have to pay your own bills. You have to get a job. What's the motivation to do that?
well, I
If
mean,
you have everything you could want at home and your parents are so nice to you and they don't like, have
well,
strict rules or
but like
anything,
again, it's
it's
selective.
equal.
There's
I would
selective
say that
things
the
that you could
fact that
do.
no one's moving out is proof that there isn't a lot of motivation to grow up if you have it too good. I mean, this is a serious issue. This failure launch thing is
Oh
generating.
no, yeah. Okay, so I think again, it's not about what you give your kids; it's about how you do it. I think, like for instance, I'll give you an example. Like I have to give my parents credit where it's due. As much as I don't like what some of the stuff they did for my first car, for instance, they financed my first car. I was able to get the car, so they got me the car, but I had to pay them. So I had to get a job to pay off my loan to them. And so on one hand, yeah, they gave me a car, but on the other hand, yeah, I had to pay
They
them
didn't give
pay
you a
them
car.
back.
That's the thing.
You
You
see what I
had to
mean?
make the payment.
Yes, exactly. So,
Totally
but
different
now
story.
parents are just giving their kids cars,
Right.
right? You
Because
see
you
what I
weren't
mean?
given a car. They
But
just
but
got
but
involved
the
in loan.
but my point is the end goal is the same, but how they're executing it is different. If that makes sense, right? In both cases, a kid has cars,
Yes.
from their
Yeah.
parents,
I see what you're saying.
but it's the
Yeah.
method of the application. And I don't know. I think also that it has to do with, to me, right now in this contemporary time in history, almost practically everything that happens can be boiled down, I think, to capitalism, because I think what we're seeing is the absence of parents, because of their dedication to work and keeping
Mhm.
afloat, and you're not seeing the presence of parents to help, and even the parents have been neglected. They have parents who have who have chased and quote unquote martyred their family for accomplishment, for material things, for the house, for the right cars, for the things, for the right college, for the things, for the to lavish those things that you're talking about to their kids.
Yeah.
It's not the things that screwed it up. It's the fact that they didn't need the things. They needed you. They needed the parent to be there. And I mentioned this in shows all the time about how if you listen to the accomplishments of listen to interviews of the accomplished. Go listen to NPR almost any time, and if they ever ask, is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that you regret, or anything, whatever, like something formative about your experience? They almost always say, I would have spent more time with my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I
Nothing
think
but
it's
kids
I
for
think
me
it's
to
that.
stay home.
You know.
I don't know. I mean, I did. I pulled some Wonder Woman shit to be able to stay with my kids so they were all in first grade. And now I work. I get home an hour after they go to school. They get home from school. So that's a very, I value that a lot, but I guess I would feel like I wouldn't be seeing this phenomenon. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I guess I'm just also seeing this phenomenon in Utah where it's normal for a parent to be home. Like, I mean, I did not work. Um, my kids did not go to daycare, when Jeeves was 4 and Grace was 2. So that's 16 years ago. I made a commitment that I was not going to put them in daycare anymore. And even after the divorce, I went 4 or 5 years without working. And it was some financial acrobatics, but I did it. I'm in debt
Sure.
now, worth it. But I think in Utah that's pretty typical. The kids have their parents home and they're still not leaving. But maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe
Well,
it's both.
again, it's still it's not only that, it's still execution. What are the parents? Are the parents engaging their kids, or are they just there? Is one thing, right? And your time with your kids probably helped bring them to where they are now. But imagine all the people aren't willing to go through the hoops, that aren't willing to do the things that you're willing to do, or that, yeah, maybe they stay home and they have the setup to stay home with their kids, but they're not really engaged with the kids, right?
Right.
And here's the thing: if the kids still, with all of the things that I just said, and all of the things that the parents try to do and give everything they can, and they still they succumb to that culture that's erupted, then what else can you do? They
Which
are
part of the
their own
culture?
boats. You know what I
Which
mean?
part of the culture are you talking about?
The culture that you're talking about,
Well, because like
of
I have two.
staying
Okay, I have two kids that are
of
adults,
staying
right?
in, that don't want to go out, that don't
No.
enjoy the natural world. They don't want to
Well,
go do anything except be online.
so I have two adult kids, right? An 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. Okay. Um, well, for one thing, there's neither of them are big on going out. My younger ones might be different because like the younger ones are like raised by me pretty much exclusively. They visit dad, but I'm the parent. Where the other two, there was both of, but like Jeebus, he's 20, he's dragging ass, because he is like, what's my rush to get out there? He will say, he's like, I'm not stupid. I know I can do what I want, but why can't I do it in a couple of years once I know what I want to do? Because I don't know what I want. Well, Grace is already signed up as an apprentice, is already signed up with an apprenticeship with the International Electrical Workers Brotherhood, whatever. She's been an electrician because it's just smarter than going to college. So she's run the numbers. She's saving her money to move out. So I guess that I don't know. Now you got me thinking because I guess I have kids that went two ways. Grace is
Well,
autistic, or she doesn't
well,
like going out.
like I prefaced the whole thing. Kids are humans, and they're gonna run their own ship to
Yeah.
some degree. So you can only move the currents and manipulate the currents so much. They're going
Right.
to find their own path. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what I said. Like, to provide, I think we have it goes back to the neuroses of our society. We have a bunch of contradictions. Provide for your family, but in
Right. Oh, yeah.
providing,
Yeah.
you take away you from
Yeah.
your family, and
But yeah.
those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And we have a culture where people are proud of that, right? Oh yeah, I work 60 hours a week, and that's how I get the best college, and yeah, we only ride in the best, and and they not everybody, but it exists. It's out there,
No,
right?
yeah, it
Um,
absolutely is. Yeah, I have a friend in India, and she was telling me to get their corporate trainer certification. They have to take a class on work-life balance and how not to be too materialistic and how to put your family first. They have to take that certification to be able to work as a trainer. They call it the inner quotient. I was like, that's not something we discuss here. And I think actually what you're saying, I think I'm asking the wrong question because what you're saying is making me think. I realize I'm looking at Jeebus through a lens of that capitalist, why aren't you getting a degree? Where he's an incredibly intelligent young man who's learning constantly and is very well, excellent critical thinking, and he's developing wonderfully, but I'm kind of fixated on the why aren't you on
you're trying to figure out
it?
his use value to society. He's
Yeah, so maybe
trying to
that's my
figure
bad,
his
not
life
him
out.
doing something wrong, but more what I'm looking at it,
But
which
of
I didn't think
course,
before. So
you
I'll take
live
that
in
correction.
capitalist reality. So you have to, as someone setting him straight for survival in the ecosystem, you have to get him primed to find that role that he's going to play that's going to pay for his existence
Right.
outside of you paying for his
Painful. I was
existence.
like, this is not Step Brothers. He's like,
or
oh,
or
yes.
it becomes
You have
chore
to be
time
42
or
at
something.
home.
I mean, if he can't do the
He's like,
chores and he
yeah,
gets
real.
fired from chores, then he gets fired from the room. Like those are like it does it just because you can create whatever path and guardrails of motivation you want, but hopefully he's intrinsically motivated to do something other than like be on TikTok all day or something.
Yeah.
And if so, hopefully he's at least giving out PSAs or some kind of educational content and not just trying to get simps, female simps, I guess, or whatever. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
adding to the culture, because it's up. We are the culture. We, as in them, as in individually, we're all participating in that. So, and we also are the culture that we herald. So that's why with this whole cancel culture, I feel like if we don't herald or respect the cancellations of certain people, then in a way it sort of nullifies those things.
When,
But it depends on the power dynamic.
what do you mean? I just didn't catch that. What do you mean if we don't, the cancel? You said if we cancel, if we don't
Yeah, if we don't like honor that culture,
stick with it? Oh, if we don't honor the culture,
yeah,
yeah.
then like we don't herald certain voices, like like, oh, this person felt threatened that this person signed a petition about free speech, which was also signed about this person by this person who has signed it, but they say free speech stuff that I don't like, and now I feel threatened, and then the other person gets fired. See, that kind of stuff is like we should be critical of the person doing the firing,
Yeah.
right? Not only should we be critical of the cancel person who cried wolf, but we should be critical of the cancellation itself if it doesn't make sense. Now, some people might agree with that. Okay, then let's talk about it. But I mean, if you take away quote unquote cancel culture, then you take away boycott. So you don't want to take it away completely, but at the same time, there's boycotting the buses because they're racist is different than saying, then I don't know. I guess boycotting someone because they got fired because some other person got
You
threatened.
know,
There's some of this stuff.
yeah.
It's not,
No,
it gets so petty and trivial. It's like,
I,
why do we even care? And I can't believe this person got fired. There should be, if it's just for something so petty. You know what I mean?
I think parallel with the Me Too movement, where like women should not be questioned. Women should the victim should not be punished or questioned, whatever. On the other hand, it's ridiculous to say that all accusations should be taken as truth.
Right.
So I mean, I think there's a similar where like they're trying to find a balance where we need to be able to boycott, we need to be able to call out inappropriate behavior, and people should have to face consequences for that. But we need to examine each thing critically and make a decision on that. I think it's the same thing with sexual assault
Yeah,
argument.
it becomes tricky. I think it's just part of another bigger
Do you
malignant
see where I'm saying it's
tumor
kind
in
of
our
a go
society
ahead?
of the fact that there's no such thing as truth anymore.
Right, we
People are
can't find the
so
back. Yeah,
people are
yeah.
so willing to lie that you can't. Who can you even
It's hard to find a
trust
balance. It's hard to find a
anymore?
balance though
Right.
between these extremes. Is my point. Is that's how they're parallel. Yeah, I know. That scares me. The truth has lost its. I mean, I think that's like the biggest danger right now to Western culture is this alternative facts.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and the
I don't
COVID
know.
thing. By the way, had to talk to the health department. I gotta go get tested for COVID tomorrow. I have no scent or taste anymore.
Oh, that's scary. One of my
Yeah, it's
friends.
not scary for me because if you get that's associated with mild, which means I would be fine. I just need to know
Yeah, but you might be
so I don't get
passing
to
it
other
on to
people if it's
people, and
so then I have to if it's positive, I have to quarantine and then you're on the tracking system. That sucks. But
I mean, we really should have been doing some sort of hardcore stuff early on,
I know,
and
but we're not South
now
Korea. Look how well they handle
now
it.
we're paying for it. You know
I
what I
know.
mean?
It's tough too. It's tough too. Like with I mean, it is not violating your rights to tell you you have to wear a mask in Walmart. However, do not tell me I can't leave my house. That's some bullshit.
Yeah,
I
that's
know a
weird.
woman in Ohio that was ticketed for gardening in her yard. That's
That's
bullshit. That's
stupid.
absolutely
Yeah, see,
violating
this
the
is
rights.
when people get stupid, and that's
But a mask is not. 6 feet
right.
is not.
Right.
That's not violating
So,
your rights.
but we have no leadership to explain that to the idiot people that have been grown into this country. That's what I'm saying. Being an American is trauma in of itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're calling yourself.
if you talk to people from other countries, they will tell you how brutal American society is. Brutal. People who've been through genocide talk about how brutal Americans is. Like literally,
That's
Americans
wrong.
will watch each other die on the streets.
Yeah,
Will
yeah. Like
literally.
they said, what could be more selfish than to say, I won't wear a mask to protect you.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
I'm so arrogant. I'm so sure that my opinion is a hoax is right that I will risk your life on it. I mean that's what the Dunning Kruger.
We have a country full of children, basically. So I mean, of course, there's still a bunch of rational people around, but it's harder and harder to tell who they are. It's harder and
Yes,
harder to convince the people that aren't like that of reality. Like literally, their reality is a different reality.
I did my research. Okay, don't tell me you did your research. Tell me your sources. Tell me how you
To
made
them, it doesn't matter. I
friendly
have these
content.
fights with people all the time. They read a book from a guy that
You
has a
know,
doctor at the end of his name or front of his name or PhD or something, and
or what he's saying he does.
and the thing is, it's like you can't. It's like faith. You just have to have it. It's like if these guys are being lambasted by the general scientific community, then that must mean that the elites are trying to silence them. Not that they're wrong. It's just that the elites are
Right,
trying to.
right,
So
right.
I asked them, have you been able to reproduce what they have done? If it's so easy, you reproduce it. Oh, well, they keep stopping them. They keep stopping them. So you go in your garage and go do
That's
this
a
thing.
good challenge.
Go do it. You said it's so easy and it can be done. Go do it. Produce it. And then when you get hounded by the elites, I will believe you. And until then, I don't think that this is true. I
You know,
tell people to their face to do that because these guys, they go on YouTube, they spend 4 hours on YouTube chasing whatever the algorithm feeds them, and they call it research, literally. Or they go
I
through
know.
and
Oh
see
my gosh,
Instagram
it's
memes and they
appalling.
think it's research, and I'm like, dude,
And
you're
it's
so
such
ignorant that you don't even know how to learn.
yep. It's very appalling and it's awful and like people that I have in the past respected and really care, you know what I mean, been close to, I just like am in shock by the things they believe. And there's this, I remember watching this video that it was giving this theory that if the FBI knows that they were peddling children from this mansion, they couldn't say that they were. So the fact that they didn't say that they were means they were peddling children from that mansion. People are like shook. They're like, oh my God, he's so right. That makes sense. No, it's nonsense. It doesn't make sense.
Ah, I mean,
It's just the pizza game, all of that. This is kind of a tender spot for me because my mom is a Trumper. She's a flat earther, and she is a very intelligent person.
Trumper
But they get
Royale.
it ingrained in their freaking. He is a vessel of God, and they get it ingrained in their faith, and there's no change in their
I
mind.
don't understand how he's in any way godlike or Jesus like or in
They
any
say
way like a
God
this.
has to work with imperfect people all the time. Trump's not perfect. He's just a vessel. I'm just telling you what they believe. I'm just telling you what their side of it is.
Wow. Yeah,
And so
I
maybe
don't
when
know.
something bad happens to somebody who is against him, they say, "See God's vengeance."
Hmm. I
It's
don't know. That's I don't know. What do you do?
it's
What do you
sad.
do
It's
in
very
that? What do you
involved.
do in that situation when you have let's say there's 30% of the population like that they're immune to reality that they have
I don't know. We
now
end up in the Middle Ages where
created a
super
blinders
rules
to
and everybody's
themselves.
getting shystered all the time.
Well, I mean, so then it becomes sort of scary. There's people I know that like I keep alluding to these Europeans have been through war, been through all these things, and they're using words like hitting like critical mass, like the notion that of normal people like you and me, non politicians, just not like we're running fringe groups that I know of. You're not running
Right?
a group or something, right?
Just a few.
Right.
Just a few groups. Don't worry
So
about them. Not
like
all.
normal ass people. Like you can even go to work wherever. Normal ass. Go to the grocery store and go ask 5 random people or 10 random people. Half of them will probably say, "Yeah, I could foresee a civil war in the nation within 5 to 10 years."
Well, there's a lot of people saying that if Trump doesn't get reelected, he's going to pull a Putin and just stay.
Yeah. So does that?
And
What does that mean?
all those Trump supporters would be like, he had to. You crazy Democrats made him by fixing the election.
Right.
Uh,
So there's a weird Chinese finger trap that's going to happen. And so but that's the weird thing is the idea. So when I was a kid, the when you heard about civil unrest and you heard about revolution and you heard about a government being overthrown by the population or some kind of these kinds of things happening, civil wars, these things happen in Africa or this happens in
right.
South America or maybe in some little country that I barely could figure out where it's on the map. It's like probably near Russia and whatever. That's that
Right.
kind of stuff,
Oh,
right? Now it's like the idea that would ever, I mean, to back then the idea that us after we've already had civil war and to actually Americans killing each other because of some ideology of some sort was so foreign. But now it like for me it's been like I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago. The rhetoric was getting nuts. Even through Obama, it was getting nuts. And then it just got escalated through Hillary and Bernie and all those people really triggering right wing people. Trump comes along and becomes the master troll, master triggerer of all the scared white people, especially. And now we're at a point where we have militant people who support a sociopathic, volatile guy, and
yeah. Yeah.
so we now are the closest probably that we've ever come. And it's happened in my lifetime. I didn't think it was supposed to happen when I was in it was the 90s. I was in high school. I graduated. I was like, there's nothing for me to do. Civil rights is done. All this stuff is done. Everybody's equal. We're all happy. We watch Friends. Whatever. Who gives a shit, right? And
Right.
now it's like, damn, we're gonna have a fucking civil war, and I'm like in my 40s.
Right.
The fuck,
I
you
know
know?
it's
Like I thought it was gonna be boring shit. I thought I was gonna just die, retire, whatever, go fishing, and then I'll be gone from this earth. But now it's like, oh shit, we're gonna
yeah.
live through a depression and a potential revolution or civil war, or some shit's gonna hit the fan big time. Something weird is gonna happen. You know,
You think?
what flavor of weird? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
I
I
don't
I
know.
mean, it could. I don't know that
People are getting
I
desperate, and the
don't think I
government
think
is
they
not
do. I mean,
gonna.
if
What are they gonna
Trump
do?
gets knocked out of office and he leaves willingly, things might get. I don't know. I guess it's a good point because those people are going to be the Trump supporters are going to be furious if he doesn't get
I mean,
elected,
look,
and they're gun toting fools.
there might be a way for him to gracefully somehow because he's probably getting threatened or some other puppet string stuff going on in the background, that he will nicely, he's going to build all his rhetoric, but then he's going to nicely transfer over to Joe Biden. He's going to tell everybody, oh, if it's Joe Biden. I can't somebody, can't somebody, can't somebody, come on, America. This election shows us the mask is off, that this is all fakery. Americans can't be so stupid that they chose Biden out of all the people, that it should be Biden versus Trump. Like, you would do a better job. I'm not saying that you're, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, anybody, I could throw a rock into somebody's house and they would probably do a better job than both people.
Kooky the week after.
He was already kooky. The dude was off his rocker.
He started, okay, but his serious kookiness kicked in after he got the nomination.
That too. And he didn't do, but here's the thing, he did nothing inspirational. He did nothing good that brought people together. He suddenly, out of nowhere, just got endorsed by everybody. Why?
Because
what kind of weird ass conspiracy theories going on where everyone bows out at the same exact time and doesn't hand it to the leader, hands it to fucking Joe Biden, ditzy weirdo that was absent the whole time and only said a couple sound bites and has shit policy his whole life. Now suddenly the number one most popular politician in America gets overshadowed by this guy in one fell swoop after like Super Tuesday or some shit, because everyone bows out and then gives it to him, which in no other Democratic run they did that. It's weird stuff.
There was a Saturday Night Live skit a long time ago with Jason Sudeikis. It was like a Christmas special when Obama was in office. Do you remember this? And Jason Sudeikis was playing Biden. He was looking out the window like, oh, Santa's gonna come. Like, he's always been a joke.
Yes.
I gotta find that snippet. But yeah, I think people were scared of Bernie. I mean, maybe there was a conspiracy behind it, but it also could just be that, like, for one thing, the people who support Bernie, the young people, are the most like combative. Like, I'm pretty darn progressive, and I want to punch half of them in the face. Like, shut up. Like, the ones who just scream, like, cis people, gender people are scum, or, it's just like, oh, God, like,
but I think those people like are a vocal minority, though.
Tolerable, that I think part of it was people were just afraid of Bernie taking over. He was so much more, we didn't have, I mean, I don't know why Warren didn't get it, to be honest. If Bernie wasn't in the race, Warren would have got it. I think we had too many people split between Warren and Bernie, and that allowed Biden to get it.
Well, then why suddenly does Biden come in? Why is Biden the pick of the Democrats?
And he's not threatening, and young people don't like him.
Well, we'll see, I guess. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Hey, we'll see how dumb of a decision that was by the That's what I keep telling the Democrats that kept telling me, oh, Bernie's, I'm not, because I voted for Bernie in the primary. Voted him for. I registered Democrat specifically in 2016 to vote for Bernie. I have zero loyalty to the Democratic Party or any party.
The Trump statue with the micro penis in Times Square. I was like, we used to be the good guys. If this was of a woman, y'all would flip the fuck out. But because it's Trump with a micro penis, oh, you're all thinking it's hilarious. I'm not a Democrat anymore. We are not the people in the White Hats.
I mean, so to me, I don't care. That kind of stuff. If people want to go and do their thing and
we've had a moral high ground in the past. We've been the good guy.
Look, we're past it. I can't look, some people want to choose to express themselves in certain ways, then they express themselves. I can't be held accountable for those things.
But the Democratic Party as a whole did not condemn it.
The party, well, the party's a trash party anyway.
That's all I'm saying.
Both parties, the party system is trash anyway. None of this works for the people.
Okay.
It's all trash. And Bernie came in as an independent, going through the Democrat vector anyway. You know what I mean?
No, I'm just saying. I understand why you had to register as a Democrat just for that purpose. I used to be. I don't know. I took Jeebus to vote for his first time, and I said, "You vote for whoever you want. Vote right." And I'm sure I said, "Don't gotta tell me." And he was like, "I'll tell you." I was like, "Don't tell me, because I want to let you have your your
choice or whatever." Right.
And vote for Trump. I don't know what he did. I said, "Do you do what you want?" And he was like, "All right, I'm gonna." he, he voted Democrat eventually. He told me, but it was one of those
Well,
moments in
and it's
fan.
just, you know, I think that they're just like, you know, Bernie had a massive surge in 2016. There is you know, the Democrat Party is well funded from rich people. Those people, those rich and powerful people, are threatened by movements that are that by people like Bernie. But here's the thing: he's not even that far left. What's going to happen now, because of their, I think it's selfishness and greed. The people that are pulling the strings, right? They want to make sure that someone like Hillary or Biden, who basically won't change anything,
Right, right, right,
or
right.
the Obamas,
They're in fault. You don't
or
want to
Clinton
reshuffle.
in before them, which actually relax laws, which help, you know, allow, you know, overseas jobs and all of these things to just happen, all for capital, right?
I don't know that I object to overseas jobs. Why do Americans deserve them more than people in India? Like
Well, they
we're all
can if they match our same labor standards, sure.
right.
Right?
Well, the cost
Why
of
do
living
Americans
is
deserve? Why
higher.
do Americans deserve to not have keep the same labor standards that their forebears fought for, just so that people can make more money abusing people in other
Yeah,
places?
yeah.
We won't
I,
accept that in
I'm for
our
making that.
shores.
If you're on the top, you don't want to reshuffle. So Biden's not going to reshuffle the deck. So I can see there being a lot of motivation
I
to keep
just
him.
wish, I just lament, I lament that there's not even a third party, someone that's like
How?
some grand unifier, somewhere, someday, somehow. That, I mean, Bernie wasn't strong enough. He was just too much of a, especially in the second round, repeated himself way too much. Wasn't dynamic enough. Couldn't freestyle, basically, off the cuff. You know, a lot of talking points. He was the most motivational, and now you don't really have no one for
His
president anyway.
supporters
That,
didn't do him any good.
you
You
know.
have to admit, though, it didn't do him any good. His supporters are so cantankerous.
I don't know.
I mean,
Some
his
people
party
are
supporters
easily
are
triggered. Some people are way too
loud
sensitive.
people.
And here's the thing: to say that, to monolith people is, you know, like, there are some
I'm happy
cantankerous
all his
people,
supporters. I'm saying
but you know,
no, not just people are all voting for him.
You could say Hillary people or Biden people are just too, like, you could say that those people are so privileged that they don't really understand the dynamics of what is really at stake, that they're
I think
willing
you
to do those
misunderstand.
kinds of things,
I think
if
you're
they're
misunderstanding.
100% for Biden and all of that, without the, you know, considering just the mild movements that Bernie's asking for. Like, the pandemic would not be what it is if we had universal health care.
Right, okay. But I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I am not saying, okay, how can I put this? Not all Bernie supporters are obnoxious. But all obnoxious people are Bernie supporters. Talking about the specific group of people that I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? I think there was a wide range of support for Bernie. I was a
Are you
Bernie
talking
supporter.
about like the super, like almost the Fox News caricature of leftists,
Yes,
like these
yes, that person
these sort
exists.
of what is it called, gender neutral, kind of ambiguous
Very
people who
vengeful, very
blah
angry.
blah.
That person is loud and vocal, and that is the fear of the people. It triggers the fear of Bernie. I think that having the people's worst fear, being such loud supporters of Bernie, didn't help. I don't think most Bernie
You
supporters were
know,
like that.
but
I think we're
it's
much different.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that kind of, you know, that kind of disunity happens on the quote unquote left side of things, because the Trump people don't care that KKK likes Trump, right? They
Right.
don't care that these other people, right? They'll still support him because overall he's what's they feel is good for the country. You know, like,
Right.
if people, like, that's what I'm saying is, Biden, people that were already in the bag for Biden, those folks, you know, those folks are okay with letting Americans suffer without the changes to policy and pushing the
Right.
can down, right? In the hopes of not being associated with these other people who are sort of triggering them. right? That they don't want to be associated with. So they're going to ignore major social pushes and fights for that are needed for the country because they're not wanting to be associated. So like, you know what I
No,
mean?
I don't know about
Like
associate.
let's
I
say
think that
Trump people, they don't want abortion because they feel like it would be better for the country not to have abortion. So
what
they're gonna link up to Trump because Trump and Pence say they're gonna fight abortion, right? And they don't care.
listen about
They don't.
control
But
and
yeah, sure. But it
sexuality.
doesn't. I'm just saying as a metaphor,
I know.
as a
I guess I don't. I
comparison.
don't.
And they don't care that the KKK, who are this fringe outlier supposedly to Trump, is also backing Trump. You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
to like say like, oh man, I don't want to be with these
I don't
vocal
think it's so
weird
much about
people
what
and forfeit Medicare for all. You see what I mean?
yes, but I think that it's not so much like I don't want to be with them, more of the moderate left, okay?
Mm.
The moderate left sees them as the worst possible outcome of what this nation could be. I'm telling you from people who I speak to who have always voted Democrat but voted Biden, not Bernie, they see those people as that's what this country's going to turn into if we let the socialists, let Bernie take it over. This is what the country's going to be. I don't like that. That's so radical and extreme. I'm not comfortable with that. So I am comfortable with this. You know what I mean? I don't think it's so much like I don't want to be associated
Right,
with it.
but
I want that to be the future of America.
that's a
Give up the future of
concocted.
America to that green hair. And I mean, I have
Right,
green hair, so I'm not
that's the
being judged with
concocted
people.
but that's created. That's created
Not
prop.
green. What, I mean, how does anybody not realize the fact that you believe in, let's say, gun control has nothing to do with whether you're why how do they think that half the country believes the exact same thing on all these unrelated issues and the other half happens to believe the same opposite on all these unrelated issues? The whole idea that there's anybody who's left or right completely is not a thinking person, because there's no way that you
Sure,
just happen to
absolutely.
agree. It makes
Right.
no sense. If you are pro choice, then you probably think people should own guns. If you're thinking straight, if you're thinking small government, if you're thinking big government, then you should think that it should be, and you think that it should be pro-life, then you also should probably think that people should have, they can control what guns people have. I mean, there's already gun control. We're just trying to move the dial, right? But I mean, I can't go out and buy a missile launcher. Do you want your crazy neighbor to have a nuke? I don't understand like this idea that there's no gun control. It's already there. We're just trying to shift the dial a
Well,
little bit.
right, right. I mean, of course,
The
that's a
party system makes
concocted.
no sense, and how do people not see that?
That's a
How do they go
right.
online and
It's
believe
all
all these
yes,
things because I'm a Democrat, therefore I believe in X, Y, and Z. No
yes.
way you came to that conclusion on each one of those things yourself and happened to come to the exact same conclusion as everybody in the country, which was, you know what I mean? It's nonsense. How do they not see that big flaw in the system? You should have opinions on both sides, or you're a sheep, period.
Well. I mean, but even
If you
then,
have only one right, one thing that you think the right is correct about, then I doubt your credibility. Anybody.
well, I think that the right and left paradigm itself, the sides themselves, are concocted. They're constructed narratives so that we are forced to talk about, like, for instance, there's these false dichotomies, government versus no government. That's a false dichotomy. That there is no such thing as that or that. It's a blend of things. We live within this blend of things.
Yes,
It's
but
to
that's sort
obscure
of a big
truth.
scroll. Right.
It's to obscure truth. Left and right, right? Who defines the baggage that goes with left and right? Is our leftist really this androgynous group of people who want you to eat kale and denounce your gender? Right? Is it just because Fox News said so?
Name
Is
your
it
tail.
because CNN shows it? Is it because you know what I mean? Because they exist and now that becomes that? And
I
you
agree.
see what I
It's
mean? And but that's the caricature, right? So
look.
of any, you know what I mean, of anybody that's not right,
Oh
basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Especially the
Libtards,
far left.
right?
And then you
Yeah.
have this sort of, so now in the deep leftist
Marxist
circles,
Black Lives Matter movement.
well, right. So and you have there's this whole weird spectrum of stuff going on, right? And now you're starting to see just like a fomenting of especially these younger people. You're seeing the far left movement versus the liberals versus the right. Who the right is also on a spectrum, like the militant right, all the way to just cantankerous, angry white Trump people, basically mainly on the right hand side. I mean, there's some mixed in colors here and
I
there,
feel like the Republican
right?
Party is just defensive white dudes, really, or defensive white people, just super defensive.
A lot of it's angry, a lot of it's fearful, defensive. They
Defensive.
get very agitated, get aggressive quickly most of the time. They instantly go to microaggressions. They instantly go to insults. They instantly move towards these things. This is just a
There's
trait.
no middle ground now,
Um,
like with
right.
I put the girls have their little run around their little Black Lives Matter shirts.
And well, and so,
Not being
but then you
socialism.
have,
Don't bring kids into it.
but
You're
then you
teaching your kids
have, right.
no middle ground.
But there's also this liberal movement, or not movement, this the liberals who are sort of defined by your, a lot of times, the pundit class, the MSNBC hosts are all going to be
Right?
liberals, right? Clinton's, all the Clinton stuff is liberal stuff. Obama, where you speak this language, this eloquent language of diversity and change and all of this stuff, but in the reality of it, you maintain status quo. There's no real substantive change,
I think
right?
Minneapolis is a perfect example of that. Minneapolis was considered one of the most compassionately liberal cities in the nation. My friend who's up there, she's an activist. She is working to try to change the school systems, because when I was there, it was actually probably kind of like the golden age of Minneapolis. When I left, it's really gone downhill. They had a great
Sure.
white flight. The school system got super segregated, and so she's trying to change that. And her biggest opponents are the wealthy white Democrats, who
Mm.
are fine with this changing until you want to make their kids bus into the black neighborhood and go to school. Then they flip out. And
Mm.
she's just like, she'll call people on this hypocrisy. It's like, okay, so you want to talk about it, but you don't want to actually take any action to change anything. And I think Minneapolis is a perfect hypocritical. I think there's a lot of,
Well,
that's where
and that's
a
where
lot
you're
of Democrats like that.
so that's where you're seeing these. So
Nobody,
you're seeing the people that do exist. So not when I say the caricature of the left, the folks in that pocket of that look superficially or act differently culturally, as far as gender and all these other things that they're pushing is culturally. Um, some of that is in response to the liberal order of
yeah,
the
yeah,
suit and tie, the soiree in the name of the ghetto, right? The fundraiser in the name of charity for the ghetto that never makes it to the ghetto, right?
right.
That never changes the ghetto. Or yeah, it makes a new basketball court that's dilapidated next year, and people are still getting shot in the ghetto. No one's escaping the ghetto. Blah blah. Right? So they don't build a jobs program. They don't put together cooperatives for
Well,
the
because
communities,
they're
right? They
serving
don't.
the rich people, not poor people.
Right. It's virtue
A lot of
signaling.
people are people
It's a
being
bunch
poor.
of virtue signaling. So now the leftist movement, now there's a lot of non just what people don't see, because the news will never show you this, because it's boring. It's boring. Professor Wolf, or like Noam Chomsky, or some of these people that most people don't ever hear about. These Chris Hedges, these are normal ass looking people, very leftist. These are leftists. And what is leftist? What are these leftists? Leftists are trying to actually change the paradigm. They don't really give a shit about how they look, or they
Right.
still hold on to their gender, they're
No,
men
because
or
some
women. They
people
don't
are
give a
feeling
fuck
more
about
woke than the next
identity
person.
politics. Or identity politics, to that degree, are subservient to systemic issues,
Yeah, yeah, they actually
capital
want things that are
capital and
socially.
labor relations, those kinds of things. So now you're starting to see a actual socialist movement, which
Okay.
I'm a little bit afraid of the flavor of the socialist movement that spawns. Hopefully, and I feel optimistic that the main vocal folks that are in the forefront of that far left movement towards a more egalitarian relationship with capital, between labor and capital,
Okay.
that it's moving towards, not vanguard socialism, not government socialism, right? Not
Okay.
central control socialism. It's more like cooperative socialism, where you have
Okay. So
market socialism, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna stop you because you're
Yep.
losing me here. Because I guess I'm not very well versed on socialism. So I guess I want to. But something I wanted to ask you. It just hasn't come up.
Sure.
Very anti-capitalism. Um, what, I mean, what is a solution to that? What's an alternative to
Yeah.
that?
So
Our poorest, but hold on, our
yeah.
poorest people are fed. If they are, there's people with mental illness and substance abuse that are homeless,
Sure.
but our
Sure.
poorest are clothed and fed and sheltered. And so, is there a real world model for this ideal?
I think so.
That,
Yeah. I think so. Well, the
because
way.
the wheel power of greed is what makes us so prosperous.
Yes.
How does
Well, no,
self-interest?
I wouldn't say that.
I
That's
know. So
that
I
I
think
don't
that
agree with
self-interest
that
is one of the
premise.
most powerful fuels and energy sources in the nation. I mean, in the world.
Wait, say
How
that again. What?
what works if we don't have self-interest? I mean,
Oh,
let me point you an example of one that works or something like that. And I'm open-minded to it. You always hear people say it
well,
doesn't. Socialism doesn't work, and
that
I don't know about one
that's
verse on that.
right. Those statements come with the baggage of McCarthyism. They come with the baggage of Reaganomics and Thatcherism. They come with all of that baggage, right? That comes with that. And then, so socialism is compared to capitalism. Really, capitalism is this notion that I have capital. I create something like an enterprise, a business, or something with resources like capital or other resources, land, something like that. And I therefore own, since I own the means to produce whatever I'm doing, because I own that, then I culturally, it is accepted that I reap the benefit, the whole benefit of anything produced therein. And basically, I look to other humans as rental tools to help me accomplish my ends, right?
Well, because some people just want to be a rental tool. I
Okay,
don't want to work the
so
management business. I'm okay just being a rental
are
tool.
you
For
though? Are you? If let's back up, what are you doing? Right?
I'm
You
not willing to put the things in that people have to put in to run their own business. I'm not willing to work
sure.
16 hours a day. I'm not willing to deal with that. I'm okay being in the rank and file because I get that paycheck and I don't feel degraded. And you know, I guess I feel like maybe get rid of the inheritance. Inheritance is and you know what I mean. Everything down to the legacy uh, admissions and the free intern program. Free internships. All this stuff is designed to keep rich people's families rich. If you could take that out of it, and every person who made their own way and was willing to commit and work that hard to have those things should be rewarded. Or no, why would you do it?
Right.
I
I
guess
mean,
that's
but you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's a paradigm. It's a cultural shift more than an economic shift, if
Do you
that
remember
makes.
this cat? I have to point something out. I'm sorry. Do you remember this cat? I got this cat in 2000, and I got her in 2007, and I was obsessed with her. At 4 years, she disappeared. This is 2011. Last September, I got a phone call from the shelter that they had her. 8 years later.
What?
Remembered it immediately. Just
That is
thought so. I was going to point
crazy.
that out, right? So I had to point that out because that was like the best thing that ever happened to me. So sorry.
That is pretty good.
Bathwater out with the baby. I mean, baby out with the bathwater.
Oh
So
yeah. So okay. So let's back this up. We those terms come with a lot of baggage. So what I'm talking about isn't like taking away self interest or something. I mean, uh, I'm not. I think Marxist communism would be a neat idea if we were culturally grown up enough to do these kinds of things, but we're not. And the thing is, next time someone talks to you about communism, you have to ask yourself, are they talking about a stateless, classless society with no money? Right? Because if they're talking about Stalin, that's a pretty state heavy situation. If they're talking
right.
about Mao, that's a
With
very
that,
state heavy situation. So neither of those are Marxist communism. You see what I mean? You know what's
yeah,
Mar-
Marxism
you
is
know
that the
what's
people and everything, but
you know what's Marxist communism is like Little House on the Prairie is sort of like Marxist communism, or so is like
the house is never
Amish
listed.
society with no
Yeah,
money is a Marxist communist society.
yeah, and yuck. Do you know why they have beards?
What?
Do you know
Why?
why they have beards? Because you're not supposed to be able to tell one person from another. That's why their dolls don't have faces.
Sure. So
So I
so
don't
those
love
are,
that
well,
part.
let me back up.
But
That's
that's the
extra,
idea.
that's extra baggage they want to throw on. I'm just talking about the economic
In the
relationships.
core of it, that everybody's equal and everybody gets the
That
same.
that not,
Everyone's
I
equal.
mean, at the heart, I mean, look, it's not, it's you know, it's like saying the Bible said it's okay to have slavery, right? Someone can
Right.
justify that, right? So you can, yeah, look at Marx, and his philosophy is that, look, if we evolve to a point, human evolution could be to the point where we recognize our capacities and our abilities, and we do so to help the betterment of society.
Do
that
you think
that
that
would
would
be an
happen?
idyllic situation,
Well,
right? And his main focus was a critique on capitalism. He just put this
yeah,
on as an aside, like, hey,
I
there's a
keep trying to
shitty,
read it. It's
it's
on my shelf right there. I keep
I've
trying. I
read
get like
Capital a
two
couple
years.
times. Capital's the big one. The hard one is Capital's 4 volumes. I've read through Capital a couple
I'm trying to
times.
read it to the manifesto.
The manifesto I've been through a couple times. But again, manifesto is this idyllic to sort of, I give you this idea, like, hey, look at the shitty system. Capital is 4 volumes of, let me tell you why, in math, why this is such a shitty system for you, right? Nobody ever actually reads it, though. And then, but they all want to quote it like it's, they know it, but they don't actually read it.
Right.
And then so they read, so they pretend to read
Well, we have
Capital,
context.
and they think they actually read a critique of capitalism. They don't actually read it, right? They read like Jordan Peterson's synopsis, and they think they know, but he didn't read it either, right? Literally, he has no
Well,
clue.
believes in mandatory monogamy.
Yeah, he's a moron, right? So look,
Assign a woman to each
he's the
man. Make
incel king. He's the moron.
They
So
just don't even have to bathe.
he has to tell people to make their bed and shit like that. He's a weirdo. Look,
I'm trying to give something to some people who need that.
sure, sure. Look, but yeah, but all of that is just little like band-aids and little, he's not talking about systemic problems, systemic issues, and he has no clue about Marx. Yet he wants to bring up Marx all the time, or
He's a
Marxism
gentleman.
all the
He's a
time. He has no
gentleman.
clue. He's a fraud. But let's
So,
back up. Let's
using capitalism
there's a
to,
difference.
to
So
get
really,
rich,
let,
but
let
he's
me let
using
me
capitalism.
let me let's talk about it, and this is probably the biggest way to illustrate it without having to go through his big tome of shit. And if you've heard of Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, by the way, which I've read The Wealth of Nations as well a couple times. He influenced Marx, and he warned, the father of capitalism warned us of the shit that's happening in capitalism now, the loss of skilled labor, the loss of the capacity to purchase, all of those things, the invisible hand, all of that. He warned about that shit back in 1776. And it's been misquoted and
So,
mistwisted because people know that nobody's reading these books.
right, so they can
They
sound
can say
smart.
whatever they
Oh
want.
no, do that all the
So,
time. I'll
so,
surface knowledge something. It'll make people think I'm smart. It's great. It's a great skill. But because I really won't know shit about something, but I can make it seem like I do because we all are in those
yeah.
situations
So,
where we
like the
gotta.
Ben Shapiro's and all those people make a living off of
So
that.
can you point to a real world? Okay, so I guess question: can you point to a real world model or something that would work? Like, what's an alternative to
Yeah.
capitalism?
So the
And I'm
alternative would
formerly
be
middle
like,
class, so of course
like
capitalism doesn't seem so horrible to me.
yeah,
But
like market socialism is a alternative to capitalism, and
right,
all that it does is change the dynamic between labor and capital. What it says is,
anywhere?
what?
Is it being done anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see a cooperative, that's market
On a
socialism being
national
happening.
level, I guess is my concern is like they say, you never see somebody from a capitalist country trying to cross the border and sneak into a socialist one, and that's true.
You will
Like,
now. You do now.
are there any
You're gonna see.
examples?
You're starting to see mass migrations of Americans even to Mexico. There's an expat
Not like
movement.
socialist nations, though.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to more socialistic. I mean, they have social programs. Like France is considered socialist
Well, the rest
compared
of
to
the world
us.
has
Canada
that.
is considered social. So again, it comes with baggage. You see what I mean? It's coming. All of
No,
this
right,
comes with
but
baggage. So let's
okay.
back up. So there
So
is
if
no
you want
paradigm.
to give an
So
option, like it wouldn't fall apart like
yes.
every other socialist country.
Well, let's back up because if you want to, there are some economists that would nitpick and say, really, if you look at labor and capital relations, if you're defining socialism that way, how are you defining socialism in those cases? When government does stuff,
No, I think
or
that we need to define what
you
social,
know, let's
not in this
define it.
conversation, but in general,
Right?
socialism does need to be defined because to me,
Yes.
It's this ill-defined
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let
communist, but not
yes.
communist.
Did
But isn't socialism, by definition, a road to communism?
it can be. In theory
But
it
isn't
can be.
that what it's created to be? It's just getting people used to it to
No,
eventually reach the ideal. I know this from my 18-year-old because
no.
she's really capitalist.
It seems that way. It can
We could have a
seem that
conversation with
way
her.
at face value if that's what you want to believe. I think I understand it because you have to look at it in not even in deep time, but as far as humans go, you have to look at it in generational time. I'll try to explain the paradigm in like 2 minutes to you. The biggest way to illustrate the paradigm shift is the paradigm shift from chattel slavery to no chattel slavery, right? In the time of chattel slavery. So this is, I'm not trying, don't take offense at this, but I'm about to put you in a position where you sound really bad. Okay, here we go.
No, because I'm not. I'm asking questions.
No,
I'm open.
I know.
I'm not
But
going to get.
imagine, so imagine and I get this question all the time, right? When you say, "Well, show me a place where this existed and it's working," right?
I mean, I
It's
want you to be able to show me
yes,
one.
right.
I would
But
like that to be
that's
viable.
in some ways that's like saying in the time of chattel slavery in the South, show me a plantation that's run by free men that's
Yeah.
better than a plantation run by slave men.
Right.
Right.
Well, what
Well,
happened?
then why aren't there too many of them
What
if
happened?
they are so
What happened
successful?
though down there? I
Hmm?
mean, but did they? I see what you're saying. Because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can be done.
Well, it's being
I mean,
done.
it
It's
can't be
being
done.
done. It's being done right now. So
Where?
Mandragon. Mandragon is one of the biggest cooperatives. It was started in the 1800s. I think it's Spanish or
That's
French.
Spanish. I
Yeah,
mean,
I can't
Mondragon
remember. Yeah,
Mondragon or Mondragon is Spanish.
the,
You know what? I know that. Do you know what the gangs are in Tooele? Like the hoods, the thugs, the gangs?
no.
Spanish. Not
Oh,
Hispanic.
really?
Spanish
From
and
Spain.
Greek. Those are the gangs. Yep, those are the actual like. It's because it, the company brought a bunch of people over from Greece and Spain to work the mines and then close the mines. They were left here, so
Oh
generationally,
my God.
there's generation after generation of poverty. It's proof that it's got nothing to do with race. The people you have to watch out for, the
Oh,
gangs that are a problem are the Spanish, the
well, hey,
Mondragons, the
look,
Bars. Isn't that
when
all? It's
what
perfect proof against racism right
the
there.
the reckoning that's about to happen to America is when everybody's that poor and desperate to cause that type of behavior. Because the greatest depression is about to happen. The Great Depression Part 2, this time it's personal, is about to happen.
Maybe.
No,
We'll see.
no, it will. It will. And so it's just a matter of time because the market crashed in 1929. The Great Depression didn't happen until 3031. You see what I
Do you
mean?
believe that COVID shutting things down is being exaggerated or pushed at all by the right as the fear?
They're all everyone's using the crisis to their
Oh yeah,
advantage
you can't
is
believe
what's
what anyone
happening.
says because they all stand to
Um,
gain something from it.
but at the end of the day, what's being revealed is capitalism's failure, number one, and the failure of the United States to be a leader, number two, and number three, just the failure of the American people in general to recognize the state of their
Yeah,
own country. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The complacency of something. So here I am just talking. Sometimes just talking about it, I feel like it's sort of dangerous, but nobody watches my show, so it's okay. But if I'm out talking about some of this stuff, people get triggered. They think I'm a socialist or whatever. Okay, let's back up. I was giving you
This is
two,
exactly what I was saying.
but
You're
I
not
am,
allowed
and
to
but
talk about certain
I'm
things.
starting to accept it and say, yeah, let's talk. And
Yeah.
I'm telling, and people, guess what? Libertarians, after I'm done talking to them, are saying, if you ever run for president, let me know. I will vote for you. Why aren't you running?
Why don't
Look,
you vote, start running for local government then?
I might. I don't have zero zeal for local government. I want to do macro
I
things.
know, but you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, screw the starting somewhere. Maybe we will see. I
That's
don't know.
moral.
I gotta look. Here's the thing. We have
This
such a
one is in the state of Utah. Do you know how
we,
easy it is to get elected and to get involved at a high level in the Democratic Party in Utah?
maybe. I think I'm too
It's
crazy.
pretty easy.
I'm too
I was the
crazy
one
for
meeting and
most of
I was
these
my
people.
precinct chair and my district chair for
Look,
the Democratic
if
National
people,
Convention.
if the Democrats thought Bernie was left, they're gonna think I'm Che Guevara. Like
Well,
that's
maybe we'll be ready for it by then. Just get
maybe.
going
No,
now.
that's what's gonna happen. If Biden comes in, they're gonna get someone so far left. Like I'm you're gonna hope that I'm the farthest left it goes, right? You
Right.
see what I mean? That's what I'm afraid of. It's gonna go the wrong way left. So okay. So when we said we're not allowed to own people anymore, we took away chattel slavery.
Yeah.
It wasn't economics that banned chattel slavery. Now, some people could argue they will paint themselves into a corner if they try to argue that with me. So let's just stick to the premise that the economics didn't change
Right.
chattel slavery. Okay, it
Yeah.
was us as a political movement, people
Yeah.
saying you should not own people. So what my point is we should take it a step further and say we should not rent people because we have this sort of universal notion that time equals money. And so, why is it that if I come to you with a bunch of money, I can buy shares into your business? But if I come to you and dedicate a whole bunch of time, I don't automatically get shares in your business. I have to
Right.
go through an employee stock purchase plan and take from the wage that's already depressed. I'm held captive as a laborer. There is no alternative to being
So there's
exploited by somebody, right? Unless
right.
I have
There's
resources already.
companies that give that out.
It's not given. They can buy it.
Well, like
Maybe some
mine
of them.
gives me. No, well, no, there's companies that, and it's small. It's peanuts, right? But it's moving in the right direction that you're saying, right? That would be
Sure.
more.
That would be great if more and more
Like
did that.
Winco is owned by by the employees. My
Yes.
Ions, they give us free stock
But here's the other part. This is the
every year.
other dynamic that's major and different is that as the labor pool grows for the organization, the control of the company should therefore become more and more democratic, because that one person who created the entity,
Yeah.
if they want to do it all themselves and reap it all themselves, then super. But if you bring people in, people should be treated as partner with you if you're going to do it
Yeah.
on a long-term basis. Now, I'm not saying
Yeah.
you can't enter into whatever relationship, go ahead, but we should have a culture and a law regulatory framework that says if I work for you for more than 3 years or five, let's talk about it. I don't know the numbers,
Yeah.
but
No, no,
let's
I see what
talk.
you're saying. I
We have a long-term relationship, right? You're
I'm
not hiring
still
me
because I work for
seasonally.
a company that does those things that treats us well, has got 11,000 employees, treats us well, gives us stock purchases, takes our input, is very interested in our
Yes,
well-being, so I
sure.
think
But
maybe
I feel
I'm
like that's a minority, number
from your
one.
standpoint
Yeah.
because that's already happening for me. Guess I need to accept the reality
Well,
that
but
now.
look at all the other jobs. I mean, come on, you can think in your own life all the other jobs that didn't do that for you,
Right.
right? Those existed too, and your life existed in them in that time, right? That's a thing we don't think about, especially the supporters, the rote sort of blind ideological supporters of capitalism. They don't ever factor in time. That time is of the essence. That your kids are getting hungry by the end of the day. That you don't just because you don't if you can't just switch jobs. They say, oh, if you don't like your job, just go switch. It's free,
Right, right,
association,
right. That
da da
doesn't
da.
work.
Like it's like fluid, like water. I'm like, when the fuck did the last time you applied for a job? If there's 100 applicants, you have a 1% chance of getting the job. How many applicants are there per job now? Thousands of applicants. And I ask recruiters and business owners, I say, would you take the odds as a business investor? Would you take the odds on a 1/100th chance of success with your money? Would you take the odds of a 1/3000th chance of success with your money?
You talk about
No.
applying. Well, I
But
guess it's not. I mean, what
but
you said
yeah,
exactly is
time is
true.
money, right? You could be doing something else. You could be
Yeah.
hustling right now. You could be jacking somebody's car instead of applying for this job that takes 2 hours to redo your resume 3 times for 3 different positions in the same fucking company, right?
Or
They
no.
don't give a fuck about that, right? So you are putting an hour or a half hour, or your expectation is to give up your life for a 1/1000th chance for something that a capitalist would never take the chance to do. And that is an expectation that we have on labor. So and the thing about capitalist pay is inversely proportionate to your desperation. So the more desperate you are, the less you'll be paid, or
Right.
the less you'll accept, right?
People at Walmart who make one third what I make, one
Yes.
fourth what I make, work way fucking harder than I do.
Okay, so and here's the other thing. This is the other thing that's missing. That the point that people don't think about. It's not a free market. If the free market people, hey, I believe in markets. That's why when I say socialism, it's very specific. Market socialism, not this thing where the Socialist Party decides shit. No. I'm just saying, look, if you work for someone more than 5 years, they have to now offer you equity.
And for the love of God, universal health care.
Right, and that should just be that should be taken off the burden. Yeah.
Medical and dental for my children. I don't even get the medical and dental I need just to pay for them. It cripples me financially.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it doesn't make sense for businesses to foot the bill for that. For you to foot the bill for that. Everybody's money will be better. You'll get better economies of scale. The finances work better to go Medicare for all instead of having individual private companies.
Oh yeah.
It's just the economics. It work better.
I'll go to Canada and get it. Oh, I would. I would absolutely go to Canada and get my health care if I could.
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's Grace. We're talking capitalism, Grace. He's talking socialism. Market socialism.
Yeah, we have to retain the markets. The markets are gonna. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Look, she's all grown.
Wow.
I thought mine might be COVID-y, so they have to wear masks.
You gotta watch out. Yeah. Well, don't get that.
I know that. My driver explains. I just want to ask. Oh crap! I can't go to the store. Okay, I'll figure it out later.
Oh, sorry, closed.
No, I actually have.
Like half an hour.
Okay, I have to go. I have to get.
All right. Well, awesome having you on. Come back on the show anytime, and we'll talk about anything. I think it was a great topic, and and Grace, come on the show too. Talk about whatever you want. A big topic that's.
She's giving her your money. She knows her stuff. All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye. All right, y'all. We are at the end of another episode. Let me get the Seprock Beats plan on that. Let me see here. Come on. I got one of these days. I'm gonna get me a live producer. We're gonna be doing this stuff right. So thank you all for joining in, and let me see here if were there any more comments. I think that was it. And tune in next time. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Look, it'll be so much more fun as we get more and more people tuning in and joining the conversation. So please make sure you're spreading it around and all that. Oh man, look at that. See, one of these days, live producer. I don't even know what's happening. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. All right, so Seprock Beats gonna take us out. This one is on the double vinyl album side A and B. Check it out on Bandcamp. You can order it there. Double vinyl, $20. Awesome deal. Amazing track. It's been another episode of The Void.